Chapter 227. The next morning, Tongning started work at 8 a.m., so she woke up at 6:30 am. After instructing Long Jie to prepare breakfast, she snuck into Mo Ting's room. Yesterday, after landing, Mo Ting went straight to the studio. He did not have time to tidy up his documents and clothes, so they were scattered all over the sofa. Tongning knew he was tired, so she gently tidied up his things and placed the fragrant breakfast on the dining table outside the bedroom. Finally, she walked over to the bed barefooted and sat down. She stretched out her hand and gently stroked Mo Ting's handsome face. Mo Ting seemed to have woken up a long time ago. He held on to Tongning's fingers and rested his head on her lap. Tongning's heart ached as she messed up his hair and held on to his ringed left hand. In a moment, Long Jie will accompany me to the shoot. You can get some rest, okay? Not today, Mo Ting said with a hidden meaning. Tongning looked down at the watch on her wrist and realized it was still early. So, she lay down on the bed and hugged Mo Ting. Aren't you going to ask me why I insist on being your manager? Tongning thought for a moment and smiled. You've already done it, so I have to trust in your decision. Even if I am afraid and have my reservations, I will never be the one to hold you back. If you aren't afraid, why should I be? Don't be afraid. In the entire industry, no one is more capable than my manager. What else do I have to be unsatisfied with? Ting, you've already made me confident enough. You've also made me put down my mask and strong shell. You've made me better. Mo Ting quietly held onto Tongning's hand without saying a word. The relationship between husband and wife had always depended on each other. Their goal was to make each other's lives better. The couple lay in bed for 40 minutes. In order to arrive at the studio before 8 a.m., Mo Ting lifted the blankets and got out of bed. However, he had a habit of sleeping naked, so Tongning couldn't help but blush. In the end, Mo Ting let out a gentle laugh as he held onto Tongning's chin and instructed, I'm going to have a shower. Help me find some clothes. Okay. We've been husband and wife for so long, aren't you familiar with my body? I can't believe you're blushing. Because it is the perfect body. After speaking, Tongning walked over to the wardrobe and pulled out a new set of clothes. At 8 a.m., the group arrived at the studio on time. Tongning quickly got into the mood as she put on her makeup and tried on her clothes. However, compared to yesterday, because Mo Ting was present today, the photographer was a lot more restrained. In front of Tongning, he was gentle, caring and took good care of her. But, in front of outsiders, he was always an unapproachable king, a son that no one could look up to. Who is that person? I heard he is Tongning's manager. I don't think so. He's so good, why didn't he become a model? Should we go up and strike up a conversation? The surrounding staff whispered amongst themselves as they worked. Some even tried to flirt with Mo Ting. However, before they could get close, Mo Ting's piercing gaze made them freeze in fear. Long Jie stood by Mo Ting's side, feeling proud. It felt so good. As soon as boss arrived, no one dared to look down on them anymore. An entire day of filming went by. Mo Ting, apart from supervising, also took out his own work to deal with. As evening approached, Stenson and a few other representatives from Excalibur Q arrived at the studio to check on the progress of the commercial. However, as soon as they arrived, their eyes were immediately drawn to Mo Ting. Stenson felt he had seen this man somewhere before. He looked very familiar. He even asked his assistant quietly. In the end, his assistant replied, Sir, he is the CEO of the famous entertainment company, Rui Entertainment, Mr. Mo No Wonder. Stenson immediately thought of the person that gave him a phone call earlier. Tongning's manager also had the surname Mo. Could it be? Stenson did not dare to delay as he walked over and extended his hand towards Mo Ting. I didn't expect President Mo to grace us with his presence. Sorry for not going out to greet you. You're too polite, Mr. Stenson. My Tongning has caused you trouble. Not at all. Tongning is very outstanding. Stenson was not stingy with his praise. It's a pity Tongning isn't in a good state today. Perhaps it's because she worked too long yesterday. Otherwise, she could have done better, Mo Ting said with a hidden meaning. As soon as Stenson heard this, he understood what Mo Ting meant. Don't worry, President Mo, Excalibur Q will make sure Miss Tongning maintains a happy working mood. Stenson let out a sigh in his heart. He was also glad he didn't choose Qin Yu. Tongning didn't appear to have much power. But, who would have thought, she actually managed to get a famous entertainment company's CEO to act as her manager. It was clear to see, she had a bright future ahead of her. This was Hai Rui's way of protecting Tongning when it came to competing for resources. I wonder if Mo Ting would do me the honor of joining us for dinner tonight? It would be my honor. However, I may need to bring a female companion. Mo Ting replied politely as he placed his gentle gaze on Tongning. Stenson nodded his head and smiled. However, the three of them did not manage to have dinner together. That night, a scandal broke out in Beijing, and this scandal involved Hu Jingjing. An entertainment reporter revealed that Hu Jingjing had been living with a gambling addict for 10 years, had multiple abortions for him and was even beaten up by him. As soon as Tongning saw the news, she suddenly thought back to the night at the Beijing private club. Hu Jingjing had told her not to make it public, not to make it public. But, in just a few days, Hu Jingjing actually got into trouble. She was an international supermodel. Overnight, she was suddenly linked to a gambling addict. With so many scandals going around, her reputation took a huge hit. Hai Rui immediately started PR and blocked 70 to 80% of the news. But, it still created quite a stir. In fact, it was comparable to Han Xin'er. There were even people that started spreading rumors, claiming it was all because Tongning had joined Hai Rui. Whenever she was involved with a company, it would always end up in a tragic state. Cheng Tian Entertainment's collapse was the best example. Bullshit. Long Jie threw her phone aside after seeing the news. Tongning had no time to care about herself. She simply couldn't help but worry about Hu Jingjing. In the study room, Mo Ting was having a video conference with the higher-ups of Hai Rui, giving Fang Yu full authority to handle the situation. But, even though they managed to suppress the news, they couldn't stop the rumors from affecting Hu Jingjing. For some reason, Tongning suddenly felt a little afraid. She was afraid that if her relationship with Mo Ting were to be made public, there would be another bloodbath. So, Tongning asked Mo Ting for Hu Jingjing's phone number. After hesitating for a moment, she gave her a call. Chapter 228. Tongning thought Hu Jingjing wouldn't pick up the phone, but she actually picked up. "I am Tongning." Afraid that the man would hang up, Tongning immediately revealed her identity. "I know." Hu Jingjing's voice was a little raspy. It was obvious she had just cried. But, there was a sense of stubbornness in her voice. It seemed, she had not given up yet. "In the news, everything in the news is true." Hu Jingjing acted like she had finally found someone to confide in. The almighty international supermodel, Hu Jingjing, has a gambler at home. She's even had an abortion 3 times and is always beaten by him. "I met him when I was 17 and we started dating when we were 18. At that time, I never thought about being a supermodel. But, I wasn't rich and my parents needed money. So, he suggested I become a model and used all his resources to help me find resources. In the first few years, we were very happy. Tongning was even happier than you and President Mo. But, as the industry became more and more tempting, in the end, he couldn't control his lower half and ended up in a relationship with another model. But I'm cheap, I can't let him go. However, he always thought that I was the one who got someone to plot against his lover. So, from the day his lover passed away, he never looked me in the eye again. I don't remember how many years it has been. I kept my promise and left half of my income at home. But I know that he always gambled with it and often drank. When he was drunk, he would punch and kick me. How many days did I think it would be better if I just died like this? Everything would end once and for all. Until I met my current manager. He discovered me and Hai Rui accepted and nurtured me. In fact, I once thought that I would work like a slave for President Mo for the rest of my life. But, I never expected that things would still be exposed one day. I've worked so hard to keep it a secret." As Tongning listened to Hu Jingjing recount her experience, she could imagine how much love a woman would have for her man despite having reached such a high position. "You've already done very well. He was the one who exposed the news to the media. Because I refused to pay him, he actually sold the news to Imperial Star, bitch. Tongning cursed in her heart. He was even worse than Han Yufan. I'm done. I feel much better now. Tongning didn't know why Hu Jingjing trusted her so much. Perhaps it was because they had both been through a lot of bad things, so they felt a sense of empathy. I will announce my withdrawal from Hai Rui. I don't want to implicate my family, especially you. I know it wasn't easy for you to get to where you are today, but rumors are already flying everywhere. Jingjing, since Hai Rui is your home, you have no reason to leave. I'm sure you've already gotten used to this life. Perhaps you are tired and fed up, but listen to me. If I can meet Mo Ting, you can also meet someone that truly treats you well. Hold on a little longer, hold on a little longer. Hu Jingjing didn't answer. She only smiled bitterly and hung up the phone. Tongning put down her phone. As she thought about Hu Jingjing's situation, her body trembled. The industry made her feel afraid and the uncertainty of the human heart made her panic. After Mo Ting finished his meeting, he saw Tongning's pale face. He reached out his hand to support her. Realizing her hands were also cold, he immediately carried her onto the bed. What's wrong? Tongning hugged onto Mo Ting's arm in a daze. The person that betrayed Hu Jingjing is the man she has loved for many years. Mo Ting immediately understood Tongning's fear. He reached out his hand, cupped her cheeks and began to kiss her. Tongning could feel Mo Ting's breath. She closed her eyes and kissed him until her body began to heat up. Only then did she pull away from Mo Ting's lips. Are you feeling better? Much better, Tongning nodded her head. The two women looked at each other. Mo Ting didn't need her to say anything to understand what she meant. Hai Rui was definitely going to get back at Star King. Most importantly, they were going to make sure the traitors got what they deserved. Otherwise, what hope did the world have? What else was there to give someone the courage to live again? Tongning calmed herself down and pushed Mo Ting, go back to work. I'm fine. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply pulled Tongning up and into the study room to continue with his work. However, he wanted Tongning to be within his line of sight the entire time. Tongning watched as Mo Ting worked seriously and thought everything out perfectly. Wasn't this how the man she admired should be like? After work was over, Tongning wanted to return to her room. But Mo Ting carried her in the shower and lay in bed with her. Tongning could feel Mo Ting hugging her from behind. She couldn't help but laugh. Didn't you say during work, everything will go according to the contract? Yes, but I am the CEO. Does that mean the CEO can cheat? Tongning turned around and continued to laugh as she lay on top of Mo Ting's body. For you, there's nothing I can't do, Mo Ting said after a moment of silence. This one sentence clearly resounded from above Tongning's head, causing her body to freeze in surprise. I know you're afraid of losing me. But I'm more afraid of losing you. Tongning suddenly let out a gentle laugh. Mo Ting understood the fear in her heart. It turned out, she wasn't the only one that was afraid. Mo Ting was also afraid. So, why must I be your manager? It's always been because of you. Only because of you. Tongning's heart was suddenly filled with confidence. This was Mo Ting's love. So, she was no longer influenced by Hu Jingjing. She simply believed in the feelings in her heart. This man was right. This man was worthy of her love. I still have one more day of work. After I'm done, we can return to China together. Ting, promise me, you won't let Star King and that man get away with it. Mo Ting did not say a word. He simply responded with his actions as he flipped over and pressed Tongning under his body. Tongning was moved as she hooked her arms around his neck. The couple had a tacit understanding when it came to this. Even a simple action was enough to understand each other's desires. However, in the heat of the moment, Tongning couldn't help but bite Mo Ting's shoulder. It was as if she wanted to leave a permanent mark on his body, a mark that belonged solely to her. This was exclusive to Tongning, and no one should even think about touching it. Chapter 229. Hu Jingjing's scandal spread like wildfire. Even with Hai Rui's forceful suppression, they couldn't compete with the news that was released 3 times a day. Hu Jingjing was once an international supermodel. In the eyes of others, she was unreachable. But, because of this scandal, Hu Jingjing's status plummeted. She was ridiculed and attacked by netizens. In fact, it even affected Hai Rui. Fang Yu's PR strategy was to get Hua Jingjing to play the sympathy card. After all, she was originally a victim. But Hua Jingjing's mental state wasn't looking good. If he wanted her to step out bravely, it wouldn't be easy. Saving a person's body was easy, but saving a person's heart was harder than climbing to the heavens. Fang Yu had never been betrayed before, so he couldn't understand the pain and shame that seeped into his bones. But Tongning knew how it felt. So, Tongning spoke to Fang Yu on the phone. That night, Fang Yu arrived at Hua Jingjing's apartment. Her assistant tidied up Hua Jingjing's messy room while Fang Yu took a look around her home. The marks left behind by the man were still there, but he had left the woman he had lived with for so many years in such a terrible state. "What do you want to drink? Get it from the fridge." "I don't have the strength to do it myself," Hua Jingjing said dispiritedly as she sat on the carpet. Fang Yu looked at Hua Jingjing and noticed her clothes were disheveled, her hair was messy, her face was pale and her eyes were lifeless. "Tongning asked me to come over. She said you needed someone by your side." After speaking, Fang Yu felt he was being a little unreasonable, so he continued, "She's quite a busybody, isn't she? She can't even handle her own business." "I think she misunderstood. She probably thinks I treat her as a friend," Hua Jingjing replied with a bitter smile. "Don't tell me you don't treat her as a friend." Fang Yu turned around and sat down on the sofa. He placed his elbows on his knees and tilted his head to look at Hua Jingjing. "Tongning and I only interacted for a short day. It was the day Star King stole our resources. Did you know? On the runway, she is much better than Qin Yu. She is a natural model. But the selection process was full of twists and turns. While waiting for the call, if it were you, you would have turned around and left Milan because of your pride. Even I was about to ask her to give up, but she asked me for the phone number of the partner. She personally told the other party that if I couldn't be your spokesperson, I would feel very regretful. I don't know how much the other party was moved by those words, but at the very least, if I heard it, I would definitely give her another chance." Hua Jingjing quietly listened to Fang Yu talk about the runway and Tongning. She couldn't deny that in this short 1 to 2 minutes, she had forgotten all her pain. All she could think about was how it would be like if she was the one in Italy. Fang Yu observed her expression and laughed. "Actually, you are still deeply in love with your career. You don't need feelings, do you?" Hua Jingjing grabbed the bottle and gulped it down. She neither admitted nor denied it. "Tongning said your silence is allowing that man to hurt the people around you. You, your parents, your friends, Hai Rui and Tongning. It's fine for you to shoulder everything on your own, but have you thought about the people that are worried about you? How many years has Hai Rui trained you? How can you bear to be humiliated by Star King like this?" After hearing this, Hua Jingjing's eyes finally showed signs of emotion. "Right now, everyone is saying that you are in trouble because of Tongning's curse. In fact, some of your fans have already started to attack Tongning. What did she do wrong? Why should she pay for your cowardice? Hua Jingjing, men aren't like this. Men are also affectionate. As for your man, how much does he hate you for him to abuse you for so many years? Worst of all, you didn't do anything wrong." Hearing this, Hua Jingjing suddenly burst into tears. She was the one that had been betrayed, she was the one that had been hurt, and now, she was the one that had been destroyed. Fang Yu stepped forward and wrapped his arms around Hua Jingjing, allowing her to cry. After she calmed down, he finally let her go. After a moment of silence, Hua Jingjing finally lifted her head and said to Fang Yu in determination, "What should I do? I will cooperate." Fang Yu let out a sigh of relief and suddenly smiled. "That's more like you, our heroine. Tomorrow morning, we will hold a press conference to clarify the truth. Trust me, as long as you cooperate, I will definitely teach Star King a lesson." Hua Jingjing nodded her head. "I will pull myself together." Fang Yu patted her on the shoulder encouragingly. He could hear the strength in her words. When a person's heart was pierced by 1,000 arrows, they were invincible. Because they had nothing to fear. When Tongning received the news, she was still in the middle of her commercial shoot. Perhaps because she felt the power of rebirth, Tongning was even more focused on her shoot. She was in perfect condition and her popularity surpassed that of the European and American models. In reality, in a commercial with a mix of men and women, due to the fact that men were more powerful, the first thing that consumers saw was a male model. But Tong Ning's gaze was exceptionally stunning. She had a wilder and more aggressive expression than a man's. This was the last day of filming. After finishing, Tong Ning immediately wrapped her arm around Mo Ting's and said, "Let's go back to Beijing." "Aren't you going to take a day off?" "I want to cheer for Hu Jingjing," Tong Ning begged. Mo Ting didn't know what to do. He simply held onto her hand and said goodbye to Stenson. After saying goodbye, he immediately booked a plane ticket back to Beijing. However, this time, the two of them would appear at the airport together. They no longer had to pretend to be strangers and they no longer had to avoid the paparazzi one after another. Although, as they arrived at the airport, Tong Ning still subconsciously observed the reporters, but, Mo Ting reminded, "Walk properly. If you want the media to take photos, do you think you're sneaking around like a thief?" "But, are you coming with me?" "Yes, I'm coming with you. I am your manager, shouldn't I be coming with you?" Mo Ting hooked his arm around her shoulder and pulled her closer to his side to prevent her from being squeezed away by the passers-by. Tong Ning looked at the crowds of passengers and noticed there weren't many reporters gathered at the airport. She let out a sigh of relief. After taking one last look at Mo Ting, she walked ahead on her own with Mo Ting and Long Jie following behind her. This was something the media did not expect. When they were following them, they refused to let them. Now that they were no longer following them, they took the initiative to release information. However, someone still spotted Mo Ting and Tong Ning. They approached them for autographs and asked, "Tang Jie, why are you with President Mo?" Chapter 230. Tong Ning froze for a moment before replying honestly, "Because we've finished working together." The young woman smiled as she suddenly jumped in front of Mo Ting and handed him her notebook. "In that case, can I also get an autograph from President Mo? It's not easy for me to come across one." Mo Ting glanced at the young woman and then looked at Tong Ning. Tong Ning shrugged her shoulders. She was the one that didn't want to avoid it, so she deserved to be asked for an autograph. Mo Ting glanced at Tong Ning helplessly as he received the black pen from the young woman and confidently signed his name. He then turned to Tong Ning and asked, "Can we go now?" Tong Ning smiled. This time, she was a lot more cautious as she put on her sunglasses and face mask and boarded the plane. "Since we're already back, let's attend the Super Queen Awards ceremony as a guest." Super Queen was actually the most lucrative model rankings over the past year. Hu Jingjing was ranked at the top, but in her current state, it was a little worrying for her to go on her own. So, Mo Ting arranged for Tong Ning to attend. He did this to show her the difference between herself and the top 3 models and to cheer Hu Jingjing on. On the day of the ceremony, he was going to make a move. He was going to use the Super Queen Award ceremony to officially announce that he was Tong Ning's manager and raise her status to new heights. "It's up to you," Tong Ning said in a tired voice as she trusted Mo Ting completely. Meanwhile, Mo Ting hugged Tong Ning and lowered his head to place a kiss on her forehead. At this moment, he didn't want to think about anything else. All he wanted to do was place the best things in front of her. Because of Hu Jingjing's popularity, the media placed all their attention on Hai Rui's upcoming press conference. Very few people noticed that Tong Ning and Mo Ting had already returned to China. On the way back, Tong Ning heard the same thing, "Don't say that Hu Jingjing is pitiful. Perhaps, her gambling addiction is even bigger and she simply hides it too well. I never expected that a supermodel's life would be so messed up. She's even had 3 abortions. I'm afraid she can't give birth anymore. I'm sure she's still a virgin. How disgusting." After hearing these words, Tong Ning suddenly let out a cold laugh. She thought about how many times she had become the topic of discussion after meals. She suddenly felt sad. Everyone thought they were glamorous, but they had no idea of the bitterness and helplessness behind the scenes. It was said that celebrities were loved by the most people. In fact, celebrities had the most enemies. Sitting in the nanny van, Tong Ning suddenly wrapped her arms around Mo Ting's arm. As long as Mo Ting was there, she could truly feel at ease. Mo Ting placed Tong Ning on his lap and gently stroked her hair with his warm palms. "I'll wake you up when we get home." "No, Ting, you deal with Hai Rui. There's no need for me to do something like this. Star King's little tricks were nothing in his eyes. Fang Yu has full authority to handle it. In that case, I want to see Hu Jingjing. Women should have some intimate words. Mo Ting did not reject. He simply asked Lu Che to drive an unassuming car out of the garage and drive Tongning to Hu Jingjing's apartment. However, Hu Jingjing's home was surrounded by paparazzi. Hu Jingjing had no way of leaving and Tongning had no way of entering. So, Tongning gave Hu Jingjing a phone call. Not long after, a well-disguised Hu Jingjing appeared and boarded Tongning's car. Lu Che then drove the two to the quiet seaside. Hu Jingjing had a scarf wrapped around her face. Even when no one was around, she did not remove it. Tongning seemed to have guessed something was wrong, so she reached out and removed the scarf. Hu Jingjing's face was covered in bruises and bruises. Did you get hit again? Hu Jingjing threw the scarf on the beach and spat out a mouthful of blood. I had a showdown with the jerk. In the end, he flew into a rage and tried to kill me. I took the opportunity to escape. Tongning looked at her quietly without saying a word. Hu Jingjing leaned against the front of the car as tears rolled down her cheeks uncontrollably. He wanted all of my assets or he would expose us. I really wanted to die with him. I'm so tired, so tired. Tongning looked at Hu Jingjing and asked in seriousness, tell me, how did the jerk's lover die? She was beaten to death. She died on the streets. He thought I hired someone to do it. Didn't you look for the truth afterwards? Tongning asked. How could I not? But, I still need someone to believe me. Tongning immediately found the crux of the matter. This was the key to defeating the man. Tell me all the evidence you have and send someone to investigate. Jingjing, the best way for you to get revenge on that man is to make him regret it. Make him turn around and beg you. But you didn't even look back. You are still you, the supermodel. This time, it's not like you don't have a chance to make a comeback. Hu Jingjing looked at Tongning and was suddenly impressed by her clear thinking. Especially when she heard Tongning say she would make the jerk regret. There were so many times in the past when she had nightmares where she wanted to strangle the man beside her to death. But, in the end, she couldn't bring herself to do it. This time, she was no longer weak. She closed her eyes and said, okay. After chatting, Hu Jingjing looked at Tongning and suddenly burst into tears and laughter. Have you always been this calm, or is it because of President Mo's guidance? He pulled me back from hell. He gave me a brand new life. Tongning, you and President Mo need to continue loving each other. Sometimes, seeing people in love is a form of strength. It makes you feel like you can receive love. Chapter 231. Hu Jie, Tongning is amazing. Fang Yu's PR is also amazing. The public opinion is already leaning towards us. Inside the hospital room, her assistant looked at the news with a joyful expression. But, promise me, from now on, don't be so stupid. Even I cried for a long time after reading that diary. Hu Jingjing felt like she had been pushed to the brink of death. Apart from anger, the pain in her heart had lessened. Perhaps, it was because of Hai Rui's counterattack. All along, I thought Tongning was just a pretty face and had no right to be considered your sister. Did you think President Mo would find a pretty face? Hu Jingjing asked. The assistant scratched her head and smiled embarrassedly. Hu Jingjing lowered her head and thought for a moment. Suddenly, she lifted her head and looked out the window. She spoke in a tone that even she couldn't believe. Tongning's power can save a person's heart. Do you still think she is just a pretty face? I can completely understand why President Mo likes Tongning. In fact, I feel, in this world, only Tongning is worthy of President Mo. As for anyone else, I refuse to acknowledge them. I don't know what Tongning was like in the past. All I know is, the current Tongning can see through a person's soul. The assistant didn't understand what soul meant. All she knew was, the reason Hu Jingjing was able to recover so quickly was because of Tongning. In fact, she could sense a brand new Hu Jingjing. Perhaps, from this day onwards, Hu Jingjing's kindness would take root in Hu Jingjing's heart. So, from this day onwards, she was going to help Tongning get what she wanted. Everything. Because of the diary and the violence, Hu Jingjing managed to turn the tables. But, if Star King thought this was all Hai Rui could do, they were underestimating Hai Rui and Mo Ting. Afterwards, the testimonies of passers-by, the retaliation of fans, the support of neighbors and friends, and the praise of business partners. Hai Rui suppressed Star King from all directions and turned everything that the jerk revealed into evidence of his violence. Hai Rui swept Star King aside and directly turned Hu Jingjing into a woman with a tragic past. They even made sure her sensational past attracted the attention of many authors and film companies. They even wanted to publish a book and adapt it to the big screen. Of course, regardless of whether these rumors were true or not, those that once hated or cursed at Hu Jingjing could no longer hate her. In fact, some even bought a newspaper page and directly apologized to her. Thus, Hu Jingjing came back to life. No matter what the scumbag said, the reporter's focus would not be on him. That night, the hospital room was quiet. Meanwhile, Hu Jingjing's assistant was helping Hu Jingjing manage her fan club. After a while, the assistant looked up at Hu Jingjing and said, "Sister Hu, what happened?" Hu Jingjing picked up the phone and looked at the fan club. They were all discussing how Hu Jingjing was exposed because she was cursed by Tongning. It's all because of that cheap model. Otherwise, how could our Jingjing be in such a situation? Exactly, Tongning is a poison. Wherever she goes, she causes trouble. Why don't we go and slander Tongning? Seeing the fans talking one after another, Hu Jingjing logged onto her account and stepped in. "The 3 fans that just said Tongning isn't a good person, I hope they can stop liking me." As soon as the fans saw Hu Jingjing appear, they immediately exploded with messages. But, Hu Jingjing still replied in seriousness, "I will only say this once. Without Tongning, I would not have been reborn. So, from now on, if any of Hu Jingjing's fans says one bad thing about Tongning, I, Hu Jingjing, will definitely tear them apart." Oh God, Jingjing is so domineering. Jingjing, are you feeling better? Since you're saying this, Tongning has helped our Jingjing before. Did you hear that? From now on, don't say bad things about Tongning again. Tongning isn't a poison. She is truly a good person. Hearing Hu Jingjing's words, the fans in the chat group finally calmed down. Afterwards, they all expressed their support. "Jingjing, don't worry, I will pass on your message to all the Hu Jingjing fans. From now on, Tongning will be protected by us Hu Jingjing. We will definitely support you to the end. Go Jingjing." Seeing this, Hu Jingjing was satisfied as she handed the phone back to her assistant. Because of Hu Jingjing's action of tearing apart her fans online, it attracted a lot of attention in the fan circle. After all, it was rare for a celebrity to tear apart their own fans for someone else's sake. And this was how Hu Tang's friendship started to spread. Late at night, Tongning was still in the study room looking through the information Hu Jingjing had gathered. She was going to find the culprit and help Hu Jingjing clear the injustice she had suffered for so many years. Beside her, Mo Ting was handling some work. Seeing Tongning being so serious, he put down the documents in his hand and sat down beside her. "You've already done enough for Hu Jingjing. Ting, what if the jerk uses Hu Jingjing to hire a killer to create more hype?" "No one believes his words anymore," Mo Ting said in seriousness as he pulled her into his embrace. "I'm not trying to stop you from finding the culprit, I simply don't want you to tire yourself out. What if I told you that Hu Jingjing is my friend?" Mo Ting smiled and picked up the documents. "Mrs. Mo, do you think I'd make it so that you don't have any friends? I'll look through it with you." Tongning hooked her arms around Mo Ting's neck and kissed him on the lips. She then let go and continued to look for clues. But, after looking for quite some time, she still couldn't find anything. This made Tongning a little depressed. Chapter 232. The aftermath of the Hu Jingjing incident was exactly as Tongning expected. The jerk actually exposed the fact that Hu Jingjing had hired a hitman to kill someone to the media. He even promised to invite his lover's parents to testify in front of the media. The netizens couldn't help but sigh. They couldn't understand how such a shameless person could exist in this world. Anyone with eyes could tell that Hu Jingjing really knew how to play these tricks. She wouldn't have to endure so many years of violence a long time ago. Yet, the jerk was stubborn. The netizens looked like they were waiting to see what tricks Hu Jingjing had up her sleeves as they continued to focus on the farce surrounding Hu Jingjing. In private, Tongning asked Lu Che to investigate the parents of the jerk's lover and find out what their attitude towards their daughter's death was. Meanwhile, Hu Jingjing replied nonchalantly, "Let them appear on the news. I want to see how heartless people can be." Fang Yu looked at Hu Jingjing questioningly. "Are you saying, we don't need PR for this incident?" "There's no need," Hu Jingjing answered with certainty. When she said these two words, there was a sense of relief in her tone. Fang Yu was still worried, so he asked again, "Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure. I want to see how the jerk is going to make a comeback." Although Fang Yu trusted Hu Jingjing, he still made the necessary preparations. They sat in the hospital room and watched as the jerk, Yu Wenxin, was interviewed. All you do is sympathize with Hu Jingjing being beaten, but you don't know how ruthless she is. "All you see is me hitting Hu Jingjing. Why didn't you see Hu Jingjing hitting someone else? Back then, I wronged her. But, we were still married. Plus, while I was with Yu Wen, Hu Jingjing and I had already broken up. You had no idea that Yu Wen wasn't a third party. Hu Jingjing has been lying to you from the beginning. She hired someone to kill Yu Wen. She is the culprit." Sitting beside Yu Wenxin was a well-educated couple. From their appearance and temperament, they seemed to have received a high level of education. As Yu Wenxin spoke, the couple's faces were ashen. This made the media think that the couple was angry after finding out the cause of their daughter's death. "Uncle, Auntie, I've let you down. I've let Xiaowen die with everlasting regret and tarnished her reputation. I've let you down. Today, please tell me the truth." The couple turned to look at Yu Wenxin. First, Liu Yuewen's father took the microphone, but he stood up at the same time. Then, he did something that shocked everyone. He took the microphone and smashed it on Yu Wenxin's head, very hard, very fierce. Fortunately, Yu Wenxin dodged quickly, and only a little skin was scratched. All the reporters present were in an uproar. "Beasts that are worse than pigs and dogs." Mr. Liu scolded. "Although I don't want to reveal our dirty linen, I can't ignore my conscience. When you were with Yu Wen, you were still in a relationship with Hu Jingjing. You cheated on her and the entire Liu family knows about it. Are you trying to deny it? Dream on. I don't want to appear on the news and I don't want to seek justice for my daughter. She wasn't wronged, she deserved it," Father Liu said emotionally. "But, when it comes to Hu Jingjing, the two of us need to say a few words. Over the past few days, the news has been blowing up. From this moment, we finally found out that Hu Jingjing had suffered so much and was tortured by an animal. Because of this, my wife and I felt uneasy for many days. Coincidentally, that animal, Yu Wenxin, came looking for us. Right now, I want to tell everyone that my daughter's death has nothing to do with Hu Jingjing. While my daughter was cheating with this animal, she was also involved with a hotel owner. Because the owner's wife found out, she ended up like this. We only found out about this a few years later. At that time, we even called the police. In the end, the matter was left unsettled. I don't care if Yu Wenxin, this bastard, really misunderstood that Jingjing hired a hitman to kill my daughter, or if he's just trying to scheme against Jingjing. We, the old couple, will now announce the truth. I only hope that Jingjing can escape from the sea of bitterness as soon as possible. I also hope that the heavens will bless the good and let those scum be punished. No, even going to hell won't be enough to wash away their sins." The truth was finally revealed. It was told by Liu Yuewen's parents. Regarding Yu Wenxin's affair and Liu Yuewen's murder, the couple didn't care about their face and innocence anymore. They didn't want to hurt other people. Yu Wenxin was dumbfounded. In the past, Hu Jingjing had repeatedly explained to him, but he had never listened to her. He had a deep-rooted belief that Hu Jingjing was the culprit. She had killed the person he loved the most. It was because of this obsession that he continued to torture Hu Jingjing. But now, Liu Yuewen's parents were telling him that the culprit was someone else and that Liu Yuwen had another man. So what Hu Jingjing said was true. However, every time Hu Jingjing said this, he would kick and punch her. How could this be? How could this be? Was Hu Jingjing really innocent? Yet, he had tortured Hu Jingjing for so many years, and he had tortured her so viciously. Yu Wenxin, who was still being interviewed, knelt on the ground helplessly. Apart from shock, his expression was filled with regret. Inside the hospital room, Hua Jingjing's eyes were empty as she watched the scene unfold. Tangning ran over and hugged her as she gently comforted her. Now that the truth has been revealed, you can start anew. After so many years of injustice, Hua Jingjing cried and laughed at the same time. She then released all the pain in her heart. I'm free. In that case, hurry and adjust yourself. At the Super Queen Awards ceremony, you will still be the Super Queen. You also need to catch up. That day, Tangning was happier than if she had received an important endorsement. So, as she returned home to prepare dinner for Mo Ting, the corners of her lips curved upwards. That evening, Mo Ting returned home. As soon as he saw Tangning in the kitchen, he couldn't help but run over and hug her. You made such a sumptuous meal. Are you celebrating? Ting, you sure created this illusion well. What happened to Hua Jingjing is the truth. I didn't create an illusion, Mo Ting replied. Tangning turned around and looked at Mo Ting in shock. She then smiled. That's even better. Mo Ting wrapped his arms around Tangning's waist and placed her on the countertop. But I'm not good. How many days have you neglected me? I didn't neglect you. You're lying. Mo Ting bit Tangning on the lip. In that case, how do you plan to punish me? Tangning stretched out her arms and hooked them around Mo Ting's neck. Chapter 233. Mo Ting lowered his head and pressed the tip of his nose against Tangning's. During the day, I am your manager. I enslave you to work. At night, I am your husband. My job is to make sure you can't get out of bed. Come, let go of me. Mo Ting loosened his grip on Tangning's arm and turned off the stove. He then carried her into the bedroom and placed her on the bed. Mrs. Mo, you've become more and more naughty. After speaking, Mo Ting's palms began to wander. It didn't take long before his hands came into contact with Tangning's thighs. However, Tangning subconsciously shrank back. Mo Ting sat up curiously and looked at her knees. He noticed there were bruises on her fair skin. What happened? My foot slipped in the bathroom. Mo Ting got up and found the first aid kit to apply some medicine. Afterwards, he did not touch Tangning again. Instead, he coaxed her to sleep after dinner. That night, Tangning felt uneasy and her body was cold. When she woke up, she realized there was no one beside her and the bathroom lights were still on. Tangning got out of bed and tiptoed over. She noticed Mo Ting had pulled out a non-slip carpet from the cupboard and was laying it out neatly on the floor. He wasn't supposed to do these things, but because he had something in his heart, he couldn't let it go. It seemed she had to be touched like this every day. So, Tangning approached Mo Ting from behind. While he was squatting down, she leaned on his back. Stop laying it out, my heart hurts. Mo Ting paused and straightened his back. Without saying a word, he carried Tangning out of the bathroom. However, the next morning, as Tangning woke up, she noticed the bathroom was covered with a thick non-slip carpet. Tangning stood in the doorway and laughed so hard that tears almost came out of her eyes. While the various versions of Yu Wenxin's interview were being released, the promotion for Super Queen had already begun. At this year's award ceremony, Hua Jingjing was one of the favorites to receive an award. Hai Rui also confirmed that Hua Jingjing would be attending. This was the first time Hua Jingjing had appeared in front of the public since her scandal. Everyone was worried about her mental state and were waiting for her to accept an interview after the award ceremony. However, the media did not expect that Tangning would also be attending the award ceremony, even though she would only be a guest. But the industry was already talking about her and Hua Jingjing's deep friendship. So, there were rumors that Tangning was attending to cheer for Hua Jingjing. Actually, it wasn't wrong, but it was also wrong. After all, Tangning had no idea what Mo Ting was planning to do at the award ceremony. In the CEO's office of Hai Rui Entertainment, Fang Yu looked at the article that Mo Ting had asked him to release. His expression was a little shocked. President Mo, are you planning to let everyone know? You are Tangning's manager. Will this be a little too much? Fang Yu did not dare to finish his sentence. After all, for an almighty president to become a manager was already lowering his status. Not to mention whether the other higher-ups would agree. Wouldn't it blow up the entertainment industry? What? Do you think it will be difficult to announce this news? Mo Ting lifted his head and asked Fang Yu. President, if you place Tongning on such a high pedestal, she will only be targeted by more people. Fang Yu was worried about Tongning's safety. After all, Mo Ting was personally acting as her manager. How much jealousy would there be? Plus, the public will definitely have their own suspicions about your relationship. In fact, they may even deny all of Tongning's hard work. As for the Backview dream man from before, I think you should reconsider your decision. Tongning no longer needs to prove her professionalism. She already has enough work to represent the industry. It's only a matter of time before she reaches the pinnacle. My aim is to clear her path and let everyone know that she has the ability and background to back her up. As for your worries, how many people in the entertainment industry would dare to spread rumors about me? They will simply feel shocked, mysterious, unbelievable and curious about our relationship. Mo Ting rarely explained things to his subordinates. It was rare for Mo Ting to explain things in such detail to his subordinates. As they slowly uncover the truth, Tongning will be completely immersed in the mysteries. In other words, Tongning would no longer be on a level that the small fries below her could reach. Fang Yu understood what Mo Ting meant and was surprised at how much Mo Ting cared about Tongning. In the entire entertainment industry, there wasn't another person like him. So, Fang Yu held onto the script in his hand and smiled. President, you treat Tongning too well. Mo Ting swiveled in his chair and raised his hand to reveal his wedding ring. She is my wife, I want to give her happiness. Fang Yu nodded his head. When it came to Tongning, he had nothing but respect. Don't worry, I will handle this matter well. When the news is released, the entire entertainment industry will be shaken. Fang Yu was actually a little excited. It was like an ancient immortal had accepted a unique disciple. But, the most exciting thing was, Mo Ting's master and disciple were husband and wife. Tongning had no idea what Mo Ting was planning. On the eve of the awards ceremony, she was still on the phone with Hua Jingjing. By now, the two had completely become best friends and practically kept a record of their conversations. Yu Wenshin knelt outside my house for an entire night, Hua Jingjing said as she waited for the makeup artist to put on her makeup. You won't go soft on him again, will you? Tongning was also in the wardrobe picking out a dress. After 10 years of nightmares, I finally learned my lesson. Did you think I wouldn't learn my lesson? Hua Jingjing giggled. Perhaps, I've already lost all feelings for the jerk. All these years, I've been struggling with the injustice I've suffered. Now that the truth has been revealed, I will naturally let it go. That's good, then let him kneel. Shall we walk the red carpet together tonight? Tongning smiled and replied, I also have a responsibility to protect you from the media. Hearing Tongning's response, Hua Jingjing put down her phone and asked her assistant, is the jerk still downstairs? Here, the assistant nodded. He's still kneeling and he keeps slapping himself in the face. Hua Jie, you can't forgive him this time. Forgive. Hua Jingjing repeated this word over and over again. Looking at the scars on her face that no amount of makeup could hide, she felt it was ridiculous. From now on, the word forgive is not in my dictionary. I am an international supermodel. What kind of trash is he? Forgive. He must have the right to do so. As soon as her assistant heard this, she smiled. That's right, our Jingjing is also an international supermodel. From now on, what man can she not get? I hope all the jerks in the world will run away and die somewhere else. Sooner or later, they will be struck by lightning and receive their retribution. Chapter 234. Countless camera flashes and a bright red carpet. This was the venue of the Super Queen Awards ceremony. This was also the second time Tongning had attended a large-scale award ceremony since announcing her comeback. The first time she attended was the annual Model Awards. At that time, she received the Special Contribution Award. As for today's Super Queen Awards, she was simply attending as a guest to get to know the seniors of the modeling industry. As Hua Jingjing was supposed to be the star of the show, Tongning subconsciously dressed up a little as she left the house. But, Mo Ting had already instructed Long Jie to prepare a dress for her. She wore a bat-sleeved jacket, an irregularly pleated skirt and a pair of gold heels adorned with butterflies. It was almost like he wanted Tongning to appear mysterious and retro. The couple sat in a van. Hua Jingjing looked at Tongning and couldn't help but comment, "Your outfit is a little different from your usual style." "My manager insisted." Tongning replied, "It does look good." "He has good taste," Hua Jingjing complimented. Tongning laughed it off, not wanting to dwell on the issue any longer. Mo Ting was the one who prepared all the clothes. Even if it was a piece of jewelry, he had to know everything. Tongning had a feeling that today's award ceremony would be a little different. It didn't take long before the couple arrived at the venue. As they sat in the van, they could see many of the biggest names in the fashion industry walking down the red carpet. Amongst them were many singers and actors that had been invited to perform. This was a testament to the power and influence of Super Queen. "Oh God, friends, I can already see Hua Jingjing stepping out of the car. Accompanying her is Tongning, who has just signed with Hai Rui." Hearing the host's voice, Long Jie was the first to step out of the car. She then opened the car door and welcomed Hua Jingjing out. However, before Tongning could step out of the car, a scream could be heard from outside. It wasn't a scream of joy, it was a scream of surprise. Even Long Jie and Hua Jingjing did not expect Yu Wenxin to leap over the railings and kneel down in front of Hua Jingjing. Everyone was shocked, but at the same time, they began to take pictures of the couple. This was big news. Did this jerk of a man come back to beg Hua Jingjing to change her mind? How shameless did he have to be to do something like this? Everyone was in an uproar. Meanwhile, Tongning sat in the car and did not step out. She knew Hua Jingjing still needed some time. Hua Jingjing wore a long silver dress that wrapped around her slender figure. Her long wavy hair was tightly attached to her back. She wore exquisite makeup, and in order to accentuate her skin tone, she even applied a bright lip color. But in front of such a goddess, there was a scumbag man kneeling. In the end, Qin Yu placed the trophy in front of Tongning and asked, "I'm giving you one, do you want it?" Tongning did not respond as she stared straight ahead. "Hua Jingjing is the one receiving an award today, why did you appear?" "How strange." "Tongning, it doesn't feel good being suppressed by Hua Jingjing, does it?" "You're the one that doesn't feel good," Tongning couldn't help but ask. "If you can't even beat a newbie like me, how are you going to beat Hua Jingjing? Why do I feel like you are like Hua Jingjing's follower? Do you listen to whatever she says? If you are capable, then beat us on the runway. Otherwise, everything you say will be meaningless." "Beat you? That's easy, I have plenty of trophies in my hands. But, what do you have to offer?" Qin Yu smiled in ridicule. "However, I am quite surprised that Hua Jingjing is here. After all, she has just been dumped by a man. Plus, I almost forgot, you have also been dumped by a man. So, the two of you must appreciate each other. You are both the same, you were ridden on and then dumped." Chapter 235. Qin Yu thought, even if Tongning didn't lose her composure in anger, she would at least be upset. But Tongning simply closed her eyes and told Qin Yu, "There's no point in talking back to me." When it came to self-control, apart from her own husband, Tongning had never met anyone that was better than her. Of course, she wouldn't do something like falling into someone else's trap just because she was distracted. Qin Yu let out a laugh. She suddenly felt she had underestimated Tongning. "Hey, here's another award for you, Miss World's Top 10 Most Beautiful Breasts." Qin Yu received 3 to 4 awards, but none of them were important. The important awards were all in the hands of Hua Jingjing and the others. The first-ranked model was another national treasure of Hai Rui. Not only was she a supermodel, she also created her own clothing brand at a young age. She had always been at the top of the fashion industry and rarely made an appearance at events like this. Even Hua Jingjing didn't see her often. In second place was a representative from Star King. Of course, Hua Jingjing was in third place. This ranking was a testament to the amount of money these models made. In terms of the domestic market, they were at the top of the pyramid. Tongning sat quietly below the stage as she watched Hu Jingjing walk onto the stage. As she held onto the trophy, she felt happy for her. At this time, Hu Jingjing, who was standing on the stage, glanced in Tongning's direction as she gave her speech. Their eyes met and the smile on their faces said it all. As everyone knows, a few days ago, I was on the brink of collapse. But one person pulled me back from the brink of destruction. This person was Tongning, who is sitting below the stage right now. As Hu Jingjing spoke, tears suddenly rolled down her cheeks. I'm not sure if anyone has ever been warmed by someone before. Before I met Tongning, I never had. Throughout the long years of darkness, the word that crossed my mind the most was death. But Tongning brought me back to life. She told me to persevere a little longer. Because I persevered, I am once again standing on the stage. I feel she is a great person. As long as she recognizes someone as a friend, no matter the consequences, she is willing to stand out and take an arrow for them. How lucky I am to have met her. Lastly, I would like to thank my family, Hai Rui, and all my brothers and sisters. Lastly, I would like to thank myself. In the future, I will make my life more exciting. I will live with more meaning. Because only now do I realize that I'm living like a human. After hearing Hu Jingjing's words and seeing her kiss the trophy, Tongning led the crowd in a round of applause. Soon, the entire ceremony erupted in applause. As long as a person has faith, no one and nothing can stop her from being reborn. After listening to Jingjing's words, I feel a lot of emotions. It couldn't be that after this song, someone would actually want to release an album for his wife, right? At the award ceremony, the duo's performance stunned everyone and won a round of applause. Tongning and Hu Jingjing looked at each other. After the lights changed, they walked to the center of the stage to give their thanks. However, at this time, a man wearing a baseball cap suddenly rushed onto the stage and threw himself at Tongning. Tongning was originally standing at the edge of the stage. With this throw, she rolled off the stage. The accident happened too suddenly, causing the entire venue to be in an uproar. As for the man wearing the baseball cap, he quickly jumped off the stage and ran towards the last place where the fans were gathered. The security guards quickly chased after him. Hu Jingjing also jumped off the stage to check on Tongning. But all she found was Tongning lying motionless on the floor. Tongning. Tongning. Tongning took a few seconds to regain her senses. With the help of a group of people, she sat down on one of the guest chairs. Are you okay? Hu Jingjing asked anxiously. Tongning shook her head. In reality, the thing she was most afraid of was being seen by Mo Ting. Seeing Tongning with her hands on her knees, Hu Jingjing was obviously in disbelief. She stood up to call an ambulance, but Tongning held her back. Don't make a scene. Let's catch the culprit first. I'm really okay. Chapter 236. How could you say you're fine? Hu Jingjing looked at the 1-meter-high stage and remembered Tongning had just rolled down. She quickly grabbed her arm to check. You must have been on the news. Did you really think no one could see it? Hu Jingjing understood Tongning's concerns, so she replaced Mo Ting with someone else. However, Tongning simply smiled and explained, luckily, there was a carpet underneath. The host of the award ceremony also approached and helped Tongning up. Can you still walk? Do you need to go to the hospital? Tongning shook her head. In reality, the pain was only obvious at the moment she was pushed down. But, when she rolled down, she didn't feel much. Okay, get some rest. If you need anything, let us know, the host comforted. Don't force yourself. After speaking, the host returned to the stage to cover up the awkward scene from before. The atmosphere quickly returned to normal and the awards ceremony continued. However, news of Tongning's fall still quickly leaked out. The security guards dragged back the man in the baseball cap. He was a 17 to 18-year-old teenager with pimples on his face and a rebellious appearance. He said he is a loyal fan of yours. He likes you so much that he lost control for a moment. Long Jie relayed what the security guards said to Tongning. He's just a kid. Plus, you're fine, so the security guards didn't want to make things difficult for him. They simply taught him a lesson and let him go. Do you believe him? Hua Jingjing asked as she scanned the crowd. Tang Ning shook her head, but she still had a sense of balance in her heart. At least, she was able to pinpoint the culprit. Star King definitely has something to do with it. But we have no evidence. In that case, we'll just have to endure it for now, Tang Ning replied calmly in a soft voice. Hua Jingjing may not have realized, but Long Jie was well aware that Tang Ning was patiently enduring. She wasn't going to let this go so easily. Do you want to leave first? No need, you still have an award to attend. I'll get Long Jie to help me back to my seat. Tang Ning endured the pain as she stood up. Her legs were a little unsteady. Hua Jingjing quickly held onto her and yelled, "Are you stupid? How dare you try to be brave?" "I'm not trying to be brave." This was because she remembered she had slipped in the bathroom and Mo Ting had spent the entire night laying down a non-slip carpet. If she returned home early, Mo Ting would be even more worried. Mo Ting likes to make a big deal out of nothing. Hua Jingjing froze for a moment before reacting. Tang Ning did this because she didn't want Mo Ting to worry too much. I really don't know what to do with you." Not long after, Tang Ning returned to her seat. Everyone around her expressed their concern, regardless of whether they knew her or not. Qin Yu was the only exception. As soon as Tang Ning returned to her seat, her sharp senses noticed the smile on Qin Yu's face. Whether she did it on purpose or not, this smile had taken root in Tang Ning's heart. Her principle had always been revenge. If Star King really had something to do with this incident, she would definitely make them pay. Hai Rui Entertainment. Fang Yu was just about to release a press release when he heard from the reporters at the scene that Tang Ning had been in an accident. She had been pushed off the stage and rolled off the stage. Fang Yu immediately headed over to the CEO's office. However, he found Mo Ting sitting gloomily in his office chair. The coldness emanating from his body made one's breathing speed up. "President, do you still want to release the press release? After I get out of here, I'll release it." Mo Ting signed the last document and handed it to Fang Yu before grabbing his jacket and entering the elevator. At this time, Fang Yu noticed Mo Ting's signature had never been so sloppy before. In fact, there were even traces of alterations. From this, it was clear to see how angry he was and how much he had to endure it. The only reason he did not explode on the spot was because he knew Tang Ning was trying her best to hold it in. He was worried. But Tang Ning didn't want him to worry too much. This was obvious from Tang Ning's series of reactions. It was best if he didn't find out who was pulling the strings behind the scenes. Otherwise, once this bottom line was crossed, it wouldn't be so easy to get over it. Meanwhile, during a break in the award ceremony, Hua Jingjing was sitting in the bathroom cubicle when she overheard a few female artists discussing Tang Ning's fall. Of course, the industry had always been one to step on the weak and support the strong. Especially after seeing Tang Ning's current development, they couldn't help but feel jealous. "Who did this? Have you guys received any information? No matter who did it, they did a good job, didn't they? Let me tell you a secret. Someone just saw Star King's Qin Yu leave the set. I'm not sure what she was doing sneakily." "You saw her?" "My assistant saw her." "Sure, keep your voices down. This is a battle between Star King and Hai Rui. It's best we don't get involved." All they heard was a loud bang as Hua Jingjing pushed open the cubicle door and walked out. As soon as the models saw Hua Jingjing, their expressions changed. They quickly lowered their heads and grabbed their handbags before disappearing from the gossip. However, Hua Jingjing chased after them and asked, "Whose assistant saw you?" The women's expressions did not look good as they lowered their heads and pretended they hadn't said anything. But, who was Hua Jingjing? She revealed a cold smile as she said to the women, "How dare you offend Hai Rui? Do you still think you can survive in this industry?" The women froze for a moment. After weighing their options, they finally told Hua Jingjing everything they had heard. They also told her about one of their assistants who saw Qin Yu leave the set to look for her manager. Hua Jingjing closed her eyes and suppressed the pain in her chest. She put on a smile and walked over to Tang Ning's seat. "The culprit has been found." Tang Ning looked at Hua Jingjing in surprise. Hua Jingjing winked at her and pointed her chin towards Qin Yu. Tang Ning reacted and added, Who is it? I've already reported this matter to President Mo. This matter can be light or heavy. You almost lost your life. So, President Mo said he wants Star King to give him an explanation. If they can't give him an explanation, they will completely blacklist her and make sure she no longer has a foothold in the industry. Hu Jingjing deliberately raised her voice. Isn't that right, Miss Qin? Qin Yu was a little flustered as she stuttered. How would I know? Someone's assistant saw her. Are you sure you don't know? Qin Yu analyzed the situation in front of her and felt Hu Jingjing's words weren't trustworthy. So, she calmed down a little. What did you see? Do you have any evidence? However, just as Qin Yu was about to mock Tongning, Hai Rui had already released a statement. Many of the artists present were bored, so they swiped through their phones and saw the news. They were so shocked that they covered their mouths. Tongning, don't you agree? Qin Yu was still verbally attacking Tongning when an unknown woman on her right leaned on her arm and said, Don't worry about me. Miss Qin, I don't think you should continue. Do you know who Tongning's manager is? Qin Yu turned her head and glanced at the woman. The disgust in her eyes was clear as day. The woman looked innocent as she reminded, Do whatever you want. If you don't want to listen, then forget it. I simply think it's quite funny. Qin Yu didn't understand what the woman meant. At this time, everyone below the stage was whispering amongst themselves. Because this news was simply too shocking, no one could have imagined it. This is so surprising. Hai Rui just released an announcement. CEO Mo Ting has actually become Tongning's personal manager. Personal. Most importantly, this person is Mo Ting, the mysterious and terrifying king of entertainment. I'm so envious of Tongning. How did she do it? For the CEO to personally make an appearance, Tongning must have something special about her. It's good to think about it, Sue. I also want the CEO to be my manager. No matter how slow Qin Yu was, there was no way she wouldn't know what had happened. So, she leaned over and grabbed the phone from one of the guests beside her. As soon as she saw the announcement from Hai Rui, her face turned pale. Hu Jingjing had also seen the news. She held up her phone and asked Qin Yu, This is the so-called third-rate model that you were talking about. Yet, she managed to get the king of entertainment to be her manager and it's his personal. Some people may be done for. Qin Yu, you were the one behind the incident on stage, weren't you? As Tongning's manager, how do you think Mo Ting will handle this matter? I can confidently tell you that President Mo's methods. Kill without spilling blood. Qin Yu's breathing quickened as she glanced at Tongning and slumped into her chair. In reality, when Tongning first found out about this news, she was also shocked and surprised. Although Mo Ting had previously given her a boost of confidence, she never expected Mo Ting would use this opportunity to reveal his identity as a manager. Hey, look at that bitch's expression, Hu Jingjing reminded. Tongning let out a laugh as she relaxed. So what if he announced it? After all, it was the truth. I never thought President Mo would dote on you so much that he would personally become your manager. Did you know about this beforehand? I knew. I just never expected he would reveal it. Tongning was a little nervous and helpless. She was afraid Hu Jingjing would have a different opinion of her. That's good too. With President Mo's protection, I'm sure those bad people won't dare to get close to you again. Hu Jingjing said generously. Perhaps it was because she was older than Tongning, she subconsciously acted like she was Tongning's older sister. She felt guilty for not being able to help Tongning vent her anger on the stage. But, now that Mo Ting had revealed himself as Tongning's manager, this was equivalent to sending Tongning to new heights. At least, from now on, those that wanted to bully her would have to think twice about whether they could afford to offend Mo Ting. So, the news that Hai Rui announced immediately became a hot topic. Mo Ting had become Tongning's personal manager. Regarding such a heavy bomb, the outside world spread all sorts of rumors, because it was simply too surprising, too shocking. With Tongning's background, who would dare to compete with her in terms of resources? This was Mo Ting they were talking about. Regardless of whether they could compete with him or not, they still needed to have the guts to. Chapter 238. Overnight, the way everyone looked at Tongning had changed. Envy, jealousy, and unwillingness filled their eyes. Everyone surrounded Tongning, pointing fingers and whispering amongst themselves. However, no one dared to step forward and challenge Tongning. This was because Tongning had already been branded with Mo Ting's name. If someone didn't want to continue in the industry, they could try challenging Mo Ting's authority. Tongning subconsciously furrowed her brows. Hua Jingjing noticed and asked, "This is something you must endure. You need to endure it." "I need some time to get used to it," Tongning replied. "Plus, when it comes to the future, I still have a lot of uncertainties. I believe the two of you can definitely move forward hand in hand." Tongning nodded her head. At this time, the awards ceremony was nearing its end. Qin Yu was afraid that Mo Ting would get back at her, so she left with a guilty conscience. However, Hua Jingjing held her back. "Miss Qin, are you leaving already? Are you afraid that President Mo will get back at you?" Qin Yu's face turned red and white. She wanted to leave, but not only did Hua Jingjing not let her go, she even approached her and held her back. "Let's go together." Tongning lowered her head and laughed. As she stood up from her seat, she felt a little dizzy. It seemed, she still had some lingering effects from the moment she fell off the stage. Hua Jingjing turned around and glanced at her. After confirming that she was fine, she calmly walked in front. The group left in an orderly manner. However, the focus of the media was on Tongning. As soon as she appeared, the reporters immediately swarmed towards her. "Miss Tang, can you answer a few of our questions? Miss Tang, can you tell us why President Mo wants to sign you as his artist? Miss Tang, President Mo is so busy. Does he really have time to be your manager?" Hearing these questions, Tongning couldn't help but laugh. She knew, these weren't the questions the media wanted to ask. What they wanted to know was why the almighty CEO, the big boss of the entertainment industry, would be the manager of a model like her. What was her relationship with Mo Ting? Was there some sort of dirty deal between them? But, because no one dared to spread rumors about Mo Ting, the reporters had a hard time holding back their questions. They didn't dare to ask too harsh of a question, so they could only wait and see if Tongning would keep her mouth shut and reveal anything. As there were too many reporters, the road was completely blocked. So, Long Jie and Hua Jingjing's assistant quickly rushed over to help. Long Jie stood in front of Tongning and said to the media, "Tongning isn't feeling well today. I hope the media can be merciful." With this reminder, the media finally remembered that Tongning had fallen on stage earlier today. However, the media did not let Tongning off the hook. Tongning never liked to be interviewed. If they missed this opportunity, who knew when they would get another one? So, there was no way they were going to interview Mo Ting. "Tongning, please satisfy the media. We are just trying to make a living." "Yeah, you should respond to the doubts of the outside world." Hearing the word doubt, Tongning smiled and asked, "What do the public doubt?" The reporter froze for a moment before replying, "We all want to know why the almighty CEO of Hai Rui would be the manager of a model." "We are all shocked." "If that's the question, then you should be asking him, not me," Tongning said as she tried to explain. In reality, her waist was sore and she was wearing high heels, so if she stood for too long, it would hurt. "In that case, are you President Mo's mistress?" The reporters began to ask more daring questions. Tongning let out a laugh and shook her head, "Of course not. She was simply his wife." "In that case, have you known President Mo for a long time?" "I don't think there's any point in telling you this." Tongning maintained her smile as she replied in a watertight manner. "What are you pretending for? Isn't she just a prostitute who slept with him until the end?" Someone in the crowd suddenly mocked. Everyone turned to look at the man. At this time, the man in his early 20s couldn't help but laugh. "What are you looking at? Do you think I'm joking? Let me tell you, I actually have evidence in my hands." As Tongning looked at the man, she also noticed his name tag. Hua Rong Studio. It seemed, this studio was like a ghost that refused to leave. It seemed, the so-called editor Lin had found a bunch of small fries. Tongning also had no idea that Hua Rong had previously captured her and Mo Ting being intimate at the manor. It was just that they hadn't revealed their trump card yet. Are you crazy? Are you trying to gain attention? The other reporters began to curse. Tongning is a bitch. I'm going to throw it all out there. One day, you will all believe what I say. Hasn't she said enough? You still need to believe her. In the past, she said she doesn't have a boyfriend, yet she's actually dated a few big shots. You just don't know. Hearing this slander, Long Jie was immediately angered. She pointed at the man and said, "If you have the guts, why don't you repeat what you just said one more time? Even if you have Mo Ting backing you, I'm not afraid," the man sneered. "Just wait until we've sorted out the evidence. It will definitely shock me." Falling on stage. Did you really think they were your hardcore fans? Did they just find you an eyesore and wanted to mess with you? I hate women that appear innocent on the surface, but are actually dirtier than everyone else. Fart. Chin Yu was left to the side to watch the show. She suddenly felt this reporter was quite interesting. Perhaps she could learn a lot of information about Tongning from him. Watch your mouth. Long Jie warned angrily. Watch my mouth. Sure, but you have to make sure you do everything cleanly. You are already suspicious. How come President Mo didn't want to be anyone else's manager and chose to be Tongning's personal manager? Also, the back you saw earlier. In reality, the question that the male reporter asked was exactly what everyone wanted to know. However, they didn't dare to ask Tongning directly. After all, Tongning was no longer the same as before. Tongning stood there for a few minutes. Her back was in so much pain that she took a step back. Long Jie could feel it, so she immediately contacted the organizers and asked for backup. At this time, a black Mercedes van arrived and stopped in front of the entrance. A moment later, Mo Ting stepped out of the van and approached Tongning amidst a series of screams. He didn't travel like he did himself. He didn't use a luxurious van. Instead, he used a van that suited Tongning's status. This proved that he was serious about being Tongning's manager and wasn't treating her like a mistress. The media immediately changed their target. However, they raised their microphones and did not dare to ask any questions. They were afraid of Mo Ting's gaze. Chapter 239. The media gathered around Mo Ting, blocking him from Tongning and Mo Ting. Although they had their microphones pointed at Mo Ting, all the questions they could ask seemed to have become one. "President Mo, please say a few words." Say a few words? What words? Mo Ting was surrounded by the reporters and was only a few steps away from Tongning. Seeing Tongning subconsciously holding onto her waist, his eyes narrowed as he said two cold and harsh words, "Move." The reporters closest to Mo Ting, as soon as they heard these two cold words, were so scared they took a few steps back. They didn't dare to surround him. They didn't even dare to breathe too loudly. Not only that, the reporters also opened up a path for Mo Ting to walk directly in front of Tongning. Tongning was a little nervous. She was afraid Mo Ting would notice she was uncomfortable. But how could she hide from Mo Ting's eyes? Mo Ting ignored everyone as he directly walked in front of Tongning. He placed his hand on her shoulder and leaned in close to her body before lifting up her black shirt. Tongning was a little uncomfortable, but everyone could clearly see the blood on her waist. It wasn't that she wasn't injured, she was simply holding on. Mo Ting did not look at Tongning as he stood up straight and turned to face the reporters. "What do you want to know? Ask me now." The entertainment reporters were given the opportunity to ask questions, but no one dared to approach Mo Ting. Because the words he had just said were more frightening than the words "let go." Mo Ting looked around and then glanced at Chin Yu. "You guys have no questions, but I have a lot of questions. Who is the mastermind behind Tongning's fall? I will give her one day to come out and explain herself. Otherwise, I will make her entire family suffer. You only have one day, no more." After speaking, Mo Ting continued to say coldly to the media, "You have no questions, right? In that case, don't come back and ask me again." Tongning stood behind him, her face pale. Not many people noticed this, but she couldn't hide it from Mo Ting. As for those reporters with evidence waiting to expose Tongning, I, Mo Ting, will be waiting for you. Remember, I am Tongning's manager. After speaking, Mo Ting finally turned around, lifted Tongning in his arms and quickly walked out of the reporter's line of sight. The reporters, including the reporter from Hua Rong Studio, were all shocked speechless. They didn't have the guts to do this. To challenge Mo Ting, Hua Jingjing had been clinging on to Qin Yu the entire time. Now that she looked down, Qin Yu's face was as pale as a sheet of paper. This was because Mo Ting had just said that he had one day to confess to the truth. Otherwise, his entire family would not be able to live in peace. Seeing that Qin Yu was in a daze, Hua Jingjing tried to loosen her grip. Finally, she laid her head on Mo Ting's chest and felt a sense of security. You have a back injury. You will need to rest for at least half a month. You can't continue with your filming. Okay, this time, Tongning did not force herself as she nodded her head in agreement. She was afraid that if she continued to force herself, she would become a huge burden to Mo Ting. But, I want to go home and recover. I'll go ask the doctor. After speaking, Mo Ting got up from the bed and told Tongning to get some rest. He then let Long Jie and Hua Jingjing into the room. Poor girl. Long Jie lay down on Tongning's bed. Just thinking about the scene of Tongning rolling off the stage made her feel a little scared. Meanwhile, Hua Jingjing crossed her arms and looked down at Tongning from above. I already told you, there's no way to hide it from him. But, Hua Jingjing sighed, President Mo is really angry this time. If you get hurt, he wants the entire entertainment industry to suffer. Thinking back to the scene where you rolled off the stage, not to mention him, even I have a lingering fear in my heart. I've always been afraid. I'm fine now. Rest well. There's still a good show to watch tomorrow. Hua Jingjing winked at Tongning. Hua Jingjing winked at Tongning. It can't be helped. If someone dares to touch the president's precious baby, then they can only blame themselves for being unlucky. Don't talk nonsense. Go home and get some rest. Take your trophies home with you, Tongning said to Hua Jingjing in disdain. Chapter 240. Tongning was seriously injured. As soon as the media received the news, they rushed to the hospital late at night. Mo Ting followed the doctor's advice and allowed Tongning to leave in her wheelchair. Only after the media took photos did they realize that Tongning had been enduring the entire time at the award ceremony. Apart from taking photos, the media did not dare to get close to Mo Ting, let alone Tongning, who was under his protection. After the two women boarded the van, Lu Che said to the media, "Thank you for your attention, but Tongning needs time to recover." The reporters wanted to dig out more explosive information from their mouths, but Mo Ting wanted them to remember that he was Tongning's manager. So, even though the media wanted to follow them, they were stopped by Mo Ting's warning. Since they couldn't dig out anything from the people involved, there was only one method left: digging up a grave. Starting from the Crown Star fashion show, one incident after another, the media spared no effort in piecing together Tongning and Mo Ting. But, at that time, the information was too fragmented. If Tongning already had Mo Ting as her backing, she would not have gone through so much trouble. So, the existence of the facts didn't provide the media with much information. Of course, just because they couldn't dig up any information earlier, it didn't mean they couldn't dig up any information later on. For example, the media had already compared Mo Ting's back to the male lead of LM's commercial. In the end, everyone was shocked to discover that there was a 90% chance that Mo Ting was the Backview Dream Man. During the Ling Feng incident, he was the man that helped Tongning overcome a difficult time. Afterwards, Tongning went on an interview with Feng Cai. During her answers, she clearly stated that she was married to the most powerful man in the industry. The reporters had no way of verifying whether this information was true or not, but all sorts of information regarding Tongning and Mo Ting had surfaced overnight. However, no one was able to give an accurate answer. Above all, according to an insider, Mo Ting had secretly helped Tongning on numerous occasions. There were also people who denied the rumors that Mo Ting had helped Tongning because of her professionalism. The most shocking piece of information was that Mo Ting and Tongning both lived at Hyatt Regency. All of a sudden, everyone fell into a state of speculation about their relationship. Some people felt that Tang Ning's situation wasn't as complicated as they thought. She simply overcame all obstacles to gain Mo Ting's favor. There were also people who believed that Mo Ting and Tang Ning knew each other from the start and that Mo Ting had been helping her from behind the scenes, helping her achieve her current status. There were even people who believed that Tang Ning had made use of dirty sex to get to where she was today. But, no matter which explanation it was, there was something illogical about it. After all, Tang Ning had been trying to prove herself along the way. As a result, the originally quiet and aloof person in the eyes of the media suddenly became mysterious. The public were more curious about her than they thought she was. She had too many secrets. This result is exactly the same as the president predicted. The public's curiosity towards Tang Ning has almost gone crazy. Fang Yu couldn't help but sigh as he looked at the public's response. Lu Che received the information from Fang Yu's hands, glanced at it and nodded his head. However, I am more curious about the culprit that caused the madam to fall on stage yesterday. Do you think she will come out and admit it? She better come out and admit it. Otherwise, no one can predict the consequences, Lu Che replied in seriousness as he leaned against his desk. Fang Yu understood what Lu Che meant, because Mo Ting was indeed swift and decisive towards the public, but he couldn't hide the fact that he doted on his wife like she was his own life. By the way, after seeing the relationship between the president and his wife, don't you want to be in a relationship? Fang Yu asked as he sat in his office chair with his legs crossed. Is there no one that you like? Lu Che turned around and looked straight ahead at the painting on the wall. This reaction, it's obvious that there is someone. I don't know, Lu Che shook his head. I don't know what it means to like someone. Bro, with your EQ, how did you survive until now? Fang Yu couldn't understand. He stood up and walked over to Lu Che's side. Based on what you're saying, it means you have someone in mind, but you're not sure, right? Lu Che lowered his head. Lu Che lowered his head and nodded. Actually, I'm not really interested in women. I find them too troublesome. Even if it's someone as smart as the madam, I still find it tiring. You can tell just by looking at the president. But there's one person, I always unconsciously give the green light to everyone else. Sometimes, I wonder if it's because she treats me very well. Fang Yu carefully observed Lu Che, especially his eyes. Realizing he was truly confused, he let out a laugh. In that case, do you like being with her? Lu Che paused for a moment and nodded his head. I don't dislike it too much. In fact, I find it quite comfortable. That's good then. Let's continue to be like this, Fang Yu encouraged. If he were to ask Lu Che whether he liked her or not, he would probably be scared off. People with low EQ couldn't handle a scare. Since the other party was also nice to him, it meant that the other party also had the same intention. In that case, he would let this wooden fool enjoy the feeling of ambiguity. This kind of heart-awakening beauty was not something that everyone could experience. After a moment of silence, Lu Che nodded his head. In that case, I'll leave first. Hurry up and leave. Do you think I have nothing better to do? Fang Yu pushed him away in disdain. Although Lu Che walked out of Fang Yu's office, his mind was still thinking about the question Fang Yu had just asked. Actually, his parents had been pressuring him to get married, but he had always felt women were too troublesome. Perhaps it was because he had a telepathic connection with Long Jie. He suddenly received a phone call from Long Jie. Lu Che furrowed his brows, but still picked up the phone. What is it? Haha, I heard a lot of news that Qin Yu is too scared to leave the house. Right now, she's wondering if she should come out and admit it. Did you call me just to tell me about this? Long Jie froze for a moment. She realized Lu Che's tone wasn't quite right, so she asked, are you busy? Or is it because you're annoyed? Don't we normally do this? Lu Che did not respond. If you think it's inconvenient, then I won't talk to you about it again. The main thing is, I have no one else to talk to. After speaking, Long Jie was about to hang up the phone when Lu Che suddenly spoke. It's not inconvenient. Huh. Long Jie suddenly felt elated. I said it's not inconvenient. If you want to call me, then call me, Lu Che repeated himself. Long Jie's heart was already blooming with joy. As long as she could prove that she was special in his heart, she would be satisfied. Chapter 241. As for the relationship between Mo Ting and Tang Ning, there were plenty of rumors going around, but no one dared to blow it up. Because, with Hai Rui's PR, they had no way of verifying the authenticity of the news. Because of her waist injury, Tang Ning had slept the entire night. When she woke up in the afternoon, her throat was dry and she couldn't speak. All she could do was use simple hand gestures to express herself. Mo Ting sat on the edge of the bed and hugged her as he examined her wounds. As there were abrasions and soft tissue damage, it would take at least 15 days for her to fully recover. Tang Ning lay on top of Mo Ting's body and tried her best to absorb his scent. It was like he was her daily nourishment. Mo Ting gently placed her down and placed her head on his lap. His heart ached as he brushed away the hair on her forehead. "Hurry and get well. You didn't rest for the whole night again?" Tang Ning asked as she flipped over with difficulty. Her eyelashes gently trembled. "I'm not a god. Of course I rest." Mo Ting stretched out his hand and gently stroked Tang Ning's skinny cheeks before continuing. "There is a competition overseas. I've already helped you sign up." "What kind of selection event?" Mo Ting's gaze moved down Tang Ning's body and stopped at her legs. "I'm not sure if I'll be able to get a placing, so let's not talk about it for now." Qin Yu still hasn't come out to admit her mistake? She probably won't come out until 11:59. Mo Ting was well aware of the mentality of these people. Plus, Qin Yu had never been a person that was willing to admit defeat. Until the very last moment, she would never be willing to make a decision. "You purposely made her suffer like that, didn't you?" Tang Ning laughed as she grabbed onto Mo Ting's hand and interlocked their fingers. Mo Ting noticed Tang Ning was in a relaxed mood, so he pulled out a list of posts and showed it to her. Tang Ning flipped through the various speculations from the outside world and suddenly felt a little nervous and lost. "They've all guessed it. Did you think, after I announced myself as your manager, they would still be so stupid?" Mo Ting laughed. "As long as they don't respond, there will be no answers. These people are trying their best to find out about our relationship, but let them guess." Mo Ting did not admit nor deny it. He simply did what a manager should do, protect the person he wanted to protect. As for Tang Ning, her mission was to be a good model and move towards the runway of her dreams. "They will eventually find out. Are you afraid?" Mo Ting asked. Tang Ning shook her head. Her mood was a lot more relaxed than when she first saw the rumors. "No. I like this method. It allows the reporters to slowly accept that we are the ones in charge. Whether we go public or not, we have the final say." Of course, after Mo Ting's identity as a manager was revealed, there were those that tried to dig up secrets, those that ridiculed them, those that tried to defame them, and of course, there were also those that were filled with teenage girl. Sob sob sob, my girlish heart. Tang Ning is like a little kitten baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. She is being protected by a big tiger. She is so cute. I don't care, it doesn't matter if they admit it or not, I will definitely support this couple. Wow, Tang Ning's long legs and President Mo's 1.9 height, they are a perfect match. I didn't think LM's commercial was good, but now that I've flipped through it, it's full of love. An almighty CEO actually lowers himself to become a model's manager. If this isn't love, then what is there to be sad about? One fan even posted a picture of Mo Ting rescuing Tang Ning at the awards ceremony. They even drew it into a comic, making his fans want to vomit blood. I can't wait for them to go public, but I also want them to remain mysterious. What a contradiction. President Mo, you like our Tang Ning, don't you? With Tang Ning's cold personality, she needs a domineering CEO to dote on her. I'm perfect. This was something Tang Ning never expected. She never thought she would be able to gain fans as a couple. As she looked at these comments, Tang Ning couldn't help but feel a little happy. That night, Lu Che arrived at Hyatt Regency with a box full of letters and gifts. He told Tang Ning, "These are all letters from your fans. Some are for you, some are for the president." It hasn't even been a day. They are all to congratulate you on having the most invincible manager in the universe and the most powerful bodyguard. Tongning smiled as two dimples appeared on her cheeks. But, I can't believe these people had the courage to write to the president. It seems, with you as an excuse, they no longer think he is so high up in the air and is starting to feel a little more human. Tongning received the letters in her hands. She was actually quite touched. Did this mean, with her position, she no longer had to look up to Mo Ting? In reality, she understood deep down that this was all because Mo Ting had shielded her from the wind and rain. But, even so, in the eyes of these people, was she still a good match for Mo Ting? What are the letters for him? Tongning curiously opened one of the letters and let out a smile. President Mo. I don't dare to speak to you directly, but you are too handsome. Madam, whenever you are bored, you can read these letters to pass the time. Lu Che placed the box beside Tongning so she could reach out and touch it. Afterwards, Tongning pulled out a yellow envelope. However, it did not contain a letter, it contained a photo. It was a photo of her kissing a man. Of course, Tongning knew who she was kissing. But, when the people from Hua Rong Studio took the photo, because it was night time and they were too far away, they could only capture her back. Tongning hid her smile as she looked at the letter at the end of the photo. Tongning, we will definitely see through your flirtatious facade. Don't get too complacent. Tongning placed the photo on the bedside table and waited for Mo Ting to finish his work so they could admire it together. It was already 8 p.m. Tongning flipped through the news and discovered Hai Rui had already pressured the organizers of the awards ceremony twice. In reality, they were warning Qin Yu that she didn't have much time left. This time, not only was Qin Yu in pain, even her manager was pacing back and forth in the room anxiously. She was also involved in this matter. Did you handle this matter properly? Qin Yu asked as she grabbed onto her pillow. Did you know that Hai Rui has already issued a second warning? I'm not sure either. Her manager's forehead was covered in sweat. Even if I'm sure, I wouldn't dare to underestimate Hai Rui. After all, you are well aware of President Mo's methods. Is the agency still not willing to stand up for me? Qin Yu's eyes slowly filled with despair. Although the agency has been secretly fighting over the years, they have never dared to openly fight with Hai Rui. This time, Mo Ting is obviously going to make you pay. No matter how you try to escape, you won't be able to escape. Qin Yu, admit your mistake. Tongning's injuries aren't light. It's impossible for Mo Ting to give up on pursuing the matter. Chapter 242. After hearing her manager's words, Qin Yu felt unsatisfied, angry, and wronged. As a result, the pillow between her hands was no longer in shape, it was twisted just like her face. Tongning sure has a good life. Qin Yu laughed in ridicule. After speaking, she turned to her manager and begged, help me do one last thing. No matter what you do, get me Tongning's phone number. Qin Yu, why are you doing this? Qin Yu smiled bitterly. Hai Rui had already forced her to this extent and no one in the agency cared about her life or death. What else could she do? Contact the media. I will announce my retirement from the modeling industry. No, Qin Yu, it wasn't easy for you to get to this point. In that case, tell me, do I have another path? Qin Yu asked as she lifted her head. With Mo Ting, there was no way she could get past Tongning. Qin Yu's manager shook her head, stood up straight and sighed. However, as she turned around, her manager sneered behind her back. Since Qin Yu was willing to take responsibility, it meant Hai Rui would no longer cause trouble for her. With Qin Yu as a scapegoat, even if she lost Qin Yu, she could still support someone else. Star King had already given up on this chess piece, so why should she waste any more effort? It didn't take long before Qin Yu's manager used a little trick to obtain Tongning's contact details from the business partner and handed it to her. Qin Yu held on to Tongning's contact details as she watched the clock in the living room swing continuously. Time was running out, so she finally got through to Tongning's phone. Tongning, I was indeed the one that ruined the stage, but I will never regret it. You are just a third-rate model that has never received an international award. What right do you have to take away the opportunity that belongs to me? I hate you, especially when you act so high and mighty. Although I lost today and can no longer be a model. Tangning, remember, I curse you. I curse you to be abandoned by Hai Rui. I curse you to lose your reputation and get into a car accident as soon as you step out of the house. Qin Yu spoke agitatedly into the phone, venting the anger in her heart. However, on the other side of the phone, after quite some time, a deep voice came through. I am Mo Ting. I am Mo Ting. I am Mo Ting. Qin Yu had no idea Mo Ting was the one who picked up the phone. So, the words she had just said. As she thought about it, a chill ran through her entire body. Qin Yu suddenly panicked. Mo! CEO Mo, just now I was talking nonsense. Is that so? You didn't do it on purpose. Mo Ting's voice was deep and dangerous. After asking the question, Mo Ting pulled out his phone and played the recording of Qin Yu's rant. Although it was incomplete, but the last 2 sentences of her curse were clearly recorded on the phone. Qin Yu knew she no longer had the right to be arrogant. Unless she really wanted to be done for. So, she sobbed and said, President Mo, I beg you, please have mercy. It's not that I don't give people a chance to do something wrong. But, for someone to say something like that and then beg for mercy, you are not worthy of me raising my hand. After speaking, Mo Ting suddenly raised his tone, I don't have much patience. Let me remind you, it is currently 9 a.m. After speaking, Mo Ting hung up the phone and immediately gave Lu Che a phone call. Help Tangning get a new phone number. Also, for any events from now on, just leave me your contact details. Understood, President. Lu Che could hear the anger in Mo Ting's voice, even though he had no idea what had happened. Afterwards, Lu Che also gave Long Jie a heads up. Long Jie guessed Tangning had received a threatening phone call, which was why Mo Ting reacted so strongly. But, in reality, it was because Qin Yu had cursed Tangning to get hit by a car when she left home, such an evil woman with such an evil heart. As the big boss of the entertainment industry, he could, of course, make sure Qin Yu died a horrible death. This was a must. In reality, as soon as she put down her phone, Qin Yu's fingers were trembling. She didn't know what had happened to her. Why would she make that phone call? Most importantly, it was picked up by Mo Ting. In the end, Qin Yu threw away her phone, hugged her knees and started crying. Although she wasn't willing to accept it apart from withdrawing, she had no other choice. 10 p.m. Qin Yu appeared in her best attire. She walked to the entrance of her villa and stood in front of the reporters. In reality, the reporters could more or less guess the reason why Qin Yu did this was because of what Mo Ting said the day before. The mastermind that hurt Tangning had to come out and admit to it within a day, no more waiting after that. However, they couldn't understand why Qin Yu and Tangning had such a huge grudge. She had been pushed down from the stage. To put it in a more serious way, there was a possibility she could have lost her life. On this cold winter day, Qin Yu was dressed in a black trench coat with delicate makeup on as she faced the reporters. Under this gloomy and rainy weather, her assistant stood behind her holding an umbrella with a blank expression on his face. I, Qin Yu, would like to announce today that I will be withdrawing from the modeling industry and will no longer be involved in the entertainment industry. I would like to thank all my friends who have supported me for so long. I have no way to repay you, I simply hope you will remember me. After speaking, Qin Yu bowed to everyone. Without giving the reporters any time to ask any questions, she turned around and left. The reporters on set continued to film in the drizzle. Towards Qin Yu's sudden action, they all had their own opinions. Dear viewers, this is the Entertainment Evening News. According to the latest news from our entertainment reporters, Star King's model, Qin Yu, will announce her departure from the entertainment industry at 10 p.m. tonight at the entrance of her villa. On the screen, Qin Yu looked haggard and spoke succinctly. As soon as she announced her departure from the industry, she quickly left the reporter's line of sight. But, why would a model suddenly announce her departure from the industry? At last night's award ceremony, Hai Rui's model, Tangning, was pushed off the stage by a stranger and suffered a serious injury. Her manager, who is also the CEO of Hai Rui, refused to believe it was an accident and insisted that the mastermind of the incident step out and explain themselves. From what we understand, Qin Yu insulted Tongning multiple times at the awards ceremony. As a result, no one can tell why Qin Yu announced her departure from the industry. According to the reporters, after Tongning was injured, she did not pursue the matter. Instead, she endured the pain until the awards ceremony ended. However, because her injury was too serious, her manager was furious. From this, we can see that no matter what a person's identity is, they should hold on to their bottom line. Otherwise, they would be harming themselves and others. Chapter 243. After watching the news, Mo Ting turned off the TV. However, he was not satisfied with the way Qin Yu had handled the situation. She simply announced her retreat from the industry and had no intention of apologizing to Tongning. Tongning could sense her husband's anger. Seeing he was about to make a phone call to Lu Che, she immediately reached out her hand and held him back. That's enough. Qin Yu is such a proud and arrogant person. Destroying her career is worse than killing her. Plus, what's the point of forcing her to apologize to me? Don't waste your energy on someone like that. Ting, you need to get some rest. Mo Ting turned his head and looked at Tongning. Seeing her patting the spot beside him, he couldn't reject her, so he lay down and gently wrapped his arms around her. I just feel bad for you. Tongning squeezed Mo Ting's shoulder and noticed his muscles had tensed up. She quickly explained, look, the intensity of your work is too much. Your body is already reminding you to get some rest. Mo Ting did not say a word as he lay down with Tongning in his arms. He then placed his lips on her forehead and closed his eyes. I already have the best manager, so I really don't care about someone like Qin Yu. Don't waste your precious time on someone like her. Okay. Mo Ting nodded his head with his eyes closed. While Tongning was resting, Long Jie treated it like a long vacation. Tongning was being taken care of meticulously by Mo Ting, so there was no need for her to worry. Bored to death, Long Jie decided to go to Hai Rui to kill some time with Lu Che. However, just as she arrived at Lu Che's office, she overheard him yelling at his subordinates. Long Jie leaned against the door frame and did not enter. It wasn't until Lu Che's secretary came out crying that Long Jie shook her head and pushed open the door. She then said to Lu Che, the way you scold people isn't right. You should be gentler to girls. How can you make them cry? Lu Che closed the documents. He was obviously still angry. This was the first time Long Jie had seen Lu Che angry. She discovered when he was holding it in, he looked very cute, even his ears were red. Tell sis, how many people have you made cry? Do you have 10? Lu Che lifted his head and looked at Long Jie with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He looked at Long Jie and felt goosebumps. Why are you looking at me like this? At least, I've never made you cry. After hearing these words, Long Jie froze for a moment. She suddenly realized she had almost misunderstood. Her heart began to race, but when she thought about it, with Lu Che's EQ, he couldn't have expressed any deeper meaning. He simply meant she didn't seem like a woman. Long Jie let out a gentle laugh, feeling a little silly as she mumbled, I almost believed you. What? Long Jie lifted her head and smiled brightly at Lu Che, because I have a strong heart. Alright, tell me the reason why you reprimanded others. I don't like people casually entering my home, so when I asked my secretary to get some documents, she helped me clean up the room, Lu Che explained with his head lowered. He was extremely engrossed in dealing with the documents with bright eyes and eyebrows. Long Jie heard this. His heart started pounding again. She had been to Lu Che's home before and even spent a night there. But, at that time, Lu Che did not say anything. Actually, your home can be quite messy at times. Long Jie said awkwardly. Afterwards, she said something that even she didn't expect, since I have some free time these few days, why don't I help you clean up? After speaking, Long Jie felt like biting off her tongue. Meanwhile, Lu Che's head was buried in his documents. After a few seconds of silence, Lu Che suddenly lifted his head and handed the keys on the table to Long Jie. Okay. Long Jie's face suddenly turned red, because she didn't know if Lu Che was thinking the same thing as her. If he wasn't, and she pointed it out, what would she do if they couldn't even be friends? So, Long Jie, with the confidence that she thought was special in Lu Che's heart, grabbed the keys and headed to Lu Che's home. On the surface, the two were still engaged. Yet, she was currently helping Lu Che clean up his home. What did this mean? Long Jie tidied up Lu Che's room and washed all his dirty clothes, including his socks and underwear. As she stood in front of the washing machine, Long Jie furrowed her brows. She felt, if she didn't get over it soon, she would lose control of her feelings for Lu Che and fall deeper and deeper into his dangerous relationship. Half an hour later, Lu Che drove home. During this period of time, Mo Ting needed to take care of Tongning, so his workload was extremely heavy. When he opened the door, he saw Long Jie doing the laundry. Without hesitation, he walked straight into the bedroom and lay down on the bed. Long Jie looked at Lu Che awkwardly as he lay on the bed. Did he not realize that there was someone else in his home? Long Jie felt it was time for Lu Che to take a shower and get some rest. So, she was about to say goodbye to him before heading home. However, just as Long Jie spoke, Lu Che's muffled voice drifted through the pillow. I haven't eaten yet. I'm hungry. Long Jie temporarily controlled her thoughts and continued to cook for Lu Che. However, by the time she was done, Lu Che had already fallen asleep on the bed. Long Jie gently turned around, retrieved her keys and placed them on the table. However, this slight movement woke Lu Che up. He sat up and turned to look at Long Jie. You can take the keys with you. Long Jie. During this period of time, I've been too busy. It's easy for me to turn the house into a doghouse. I don't trust other people. Hearing this, Long Jie smiled. Hurry and get up to eat. You can sleep after you've eaten. Lu Che reacted for a few seconds before climbing out of bed. He watched as Long Jie left. It wasn't until her silhouette was blocked by a door that Lu Che leaned against it and clutched his heart. You want her to stay a little longer? What's going on? It seemed, not only would he need to make more dirty clothes tomorrow, he would also need to break the pipes and burn the fuse. Lu Che secretly planned in his heart. Of course, Lu Che wasn't the only one that thought this way. Although Long Jie was a woman, when she met a man she liked, she would definitely want to stay with him for a little longer. Looking at the sparkling keys in her hand, Long Jie suddenly felt that there was still a lot of beauty in life that was worth holding on to. Lu Che. Lu Che. Why must you torment me like this? Long Jie pulled out her own keys and opened the car door. However, just as she climbed in, she received another phone call from Lu Che. I have a document that I can't find. Where did you put it when you were packing? It's an important document. It's a blue one. I placed it on the bookshelf, in the second cupboard on the third row. No, you came back to look for it. Chapter 244. Long Jie looked at her phone in a daze for a few seconds. After backing out of the car, she returned to Lu Che's apartment. This time, she didn't need to open the door for him. Lu Che had already opened it for her. Long Jie pushed the door open and walked in. She discovered Lu Che had messed up his study room. Big bro, are you looking for documents? Are you raiding his house? Long Jie was a little shocked as she knelt on the floor looking for Lu Che's blue folder. I can't help it, it's too important, Lu Che replied as he awkwardly leaned against the desk and tilted his head. Okay, you can leave first. I'll have a look. Long Jie waved her hand helplessly. Do you normally look for documents like this? Who's going to clean it up for you? Lu Che did not respond as he quickly slipped away. What a joke, he had been by Mo Ting's side for a long time. If he used this method of looking for documents, he would have been fired 100 times over. However, he felt this way, he could keep Long Jie around a little longer. After leaving the study room, Lu Che leaned against the cold wall to calm himself down. He didn't know why he did what he did. Long Jie resigned to her fate as she tidied up Lu Che's study room again. But, when she thought about it, Lu Che's working ability wasn't a problem. In fact, he was capable and meticulous. Why would an assistant like him leave such an important document on the table? Plus, amongst Lu Che's pile of documents, it should be easy to find a blue folder. Did he really need to move everything off the bookshelf? Plus, a normal person like her, if she messed up the study room while looking for something, she would have tidied it up herself. She would never think of troubling someone else. Could it be he wants to keep me around a little longer? Long Jie thought to herself. But, according to Lu Che's EQ, Long Jie was a little confused by Lu Che's actions. As she tidied up, her thoughts ran wild. But, she was on the highest shelf. Although Long Jie wasn't short, it was still a little difficult for her to stand on her feet. However, at this time, Lu Che reached out from behind her and gently pushed a stack of documents away. Long Jie turned around and almost bumped into Lu Che. Long Jie felt a little awkward. Just as she was about to push Lu Che away, he placed one hand on the bookshelf and said, "It's snowing outside again and it's quite heavy. Don't drive home tonight." "What do you mean?" Long Jie suddenly couldn't hold it in any longer. Mainly, her heart was beating so fast it felt like it was about to jump out of her chest. She couldn't guarantee that if Lu Che was to overstep his boundaries, she wouldn't just pounce on him. "It's really snowing. Who asked you about this?" Long Jie was on the verge of tears. She really wanted to get straight to the point. If she missed this opportunity, she didn't know when she would get the chance again. But seeing the expressions on their faces, Tongning noticed Long Jie's shyness and immediately understood, "If you have good news, why didn't you share it as soon as possible?" Long Jie sat beside Tongning with a relaxed smile. "I didn't have the time last night." "Are you really together this time?" Tongning asked with uncertainty. Long Jie nodded. "We are all in this industry. It's not easy to meet someone we like. Although I still feel a little inferior, I will try my best to overcome it. It's just a 2-year difference. Who cares about that now? Plus, my figure. What's so difficult about that? After eating with me for a while, I guarantee you will turn back into a graceful lady." Long Jie thought back to Tongning's nutritious meals. She had never seen her eat noodles or rice. Plus, she exercised a lot, so she managed to maintain her current figure. But, it had to be said, Tongning's figure was perfect. When that time comes, you won't have to worry about not being a good match for Lu Che, right? Lu Che stood outside the door and overheard the two talking about him. Of course, he felt a little uncomfortable, so he decided to look for the president first. Mo Ting was still in his office. After the video call ended, he tilted his head and looked at Lu Che. "Have you sorted out the list of programs I asked you to yesterday?" Lu Che handed over the information. "Contact the TV station and tell Tongning to agree to go on super interview in 10 days, Mo Ting said. "Is it about the madam's waist injury?" "Go ahead, I know what I'm doing," Mo Ting replied straightforwardly. "This is currently the best talk show in the country. It will help Tongning establish herself as a supermodel." She had a rough idea of what had happened with Qinyu. "Tongning, boss has only just announced his manager and there are already people causing trouble for you. Boss had to do this to intimidate them. Plus, boss didn't force Qinyu. Do you think I'm a saint?" Tongning suddenly laughed. "Of course I know why Ting is doing this. I almost forgot, the two of you are both black-bellied." Long Jie realized her worries were unnecessary. She was afraid Tongning would think Mo Ting was ruthless. However, just by looking at the netizens' comments, it was obvious that Qinyu had brought this upon herself. As for Tongning, would she pity someone who had lost her sense of self? He had to bear the consequences of his choices. Even if you managed to avoid it now, retribution would follow you like a shadow for decades to come. It wasn't that he didn't want to, it was just that it wasn't time yet. Don't talk about these unhappy things. Let it all go. Hurry up and prepare for super interview. There's nothing to prepare. Tongning laughed. It's obvious they are concerned about my relationship with Mo Ting and want to dig up some explosive news. News like this is a selling point no matter where you go. Who told you to have such a powerful manager? Long Jie couldn't help but let out a laugh. She then looked down at the time on her watch. I have dinner plans with Lu Che. Is it okay for you to return to the bedroom? I'll wait for Ting to come home. Tongning nodded. Ever since Long Jie started dating, she had been full of energy every day. It was hard to tell that she was nearly 30 years old. However, Tongning was a little curious about the way she interacted with Lu Che. 7 p.m. Mo Ting returned home from Hai Rui. Seeing Tongning lying on the sofa under the yellow lights, he carefully approached her and leaned over to place a kiss on her forehead. Tongning opened her eyes. Seeing Mo Ting's handsome face, she smiled gently and sat up. You're home? Why didn't you sleep in the room? The living room will catch a cold. Lying down is boring. Tongning replied helplessly. Mo Ting nodded his head as he pulled out the documents for super interview from his folder. As Tongning looked through them, her expression changed a little. Super interview included an introduction to Tongning's childhood and family background. Mo Ting noticed the change in Tongning's expression, so he retrieved the documents from her hands and said, if you don't want to talk about it, I'll ask the producers to change the panel. Tongning thought for a moment and held on to Mo Ting's warm hand. She looked into his eyes and said, the program definitely can't be shown. The Tang family don't like the entertainment industry. They think entering this industry is a waste. If you can't show it, then don't show it. But, I want to tell you something. Tongning shook Missouri Ting's left hand. She felt it was time to let Mo Ting know about her family's situation. Mo Ting felt it was going to be a long story, so he wrapped his arm around Tongning and waited for her to slowly tell him. Yes, I am a part of the Tang family. But, I am more like a clown. My mother was my father's second wife. In reality, she was a mistress. My father's first wife had 3 children. From a young age, I was the demon that took everything from them. Yet, grandfather had high hopes for me. I felt guilty and didn't want to enter the family business. So, I chose to become a model and broke grandfather's heart. At first, grandfather hated me. But, ever since I got together with Han Yufan, he kicked me out of the Tang family. He felt I was a disgrace to the family. After hearing Tongning's words, Mo Ting suddenly hugged her tightly. The Tang family was a legend in the perfume industry. But, at the same time, they couldn't escape from the struggles of the family. So, I am someone that has been abandoned by my family. How could you be someone that has been abandoned? You have me. Mo Ting's heart ached. When Tongning first debuted, she wasn't even 18 years old. All these years, she had been on her own and had even met the jerk, Han Yufan. Just like that, 9 years of her youth had been wasted. We won't be a part of the Tang family. We won't do it, we won't even mention it. I haven't seen my mother in a few years. Tongning mumbled. Sometimes, I hate her. In order to cling on to the rich and powerful sometimes, she makes me feel ashamed of myself. That's why, after finding out about Han Yufan and Mo Euro, I suddenly became so ruthless. Chapter 246. Why do you have to ruin someone else's happiness? This was the first time Tongning had told Mo Ting about her family's situation since they got married. It also cleared up one of Mo Ting's doubts. Tongning had been in trouble so many times, yet the Tang family had never made an appearance. Not only did they not help her, they didn't even say a simple word of support. Don't even think about it. After marrying me, you are now part of the Mo family and have nothing to do with the Tang family. Mo Ting hugged Tongning and kissed her from the tip of her nose to her collarbone. He kissed her from the tip of her nose to her collarbone. It was a silent yet effective way of comforting her. From now on, I will take you to see the Mo family and wait for you to prepare yourself. After hearing Tongning's words, Mo Ting finally realized how serious Tongning's lack of a sense of security was. Because of her complicated family relationship. Okay, Tongning nodded her head. As the Tang family was involved, Mo Ting discussed with the television station and decided to skip over Tongning's childhood and record her from the moment she debuted. This was also an important turning point in her life. In reality, the television station really wanted to dig into this century-old perfume family. But, after discussing with Mo Ting, they decided it wasn't a good idea to take the risk. Actually, simply using Tongning and Mo Ting's relationship as a selling point was already enough to guarantee a high viewership. There was no need to create trouble for himself. After the content was finalized, all that was left was to wait for Tongning's recovery. Apart from regular checkups from the doctor, with Mo Ting's help, Tongning was soon able to do some simple exercises. However, they couldn't be too intense. Seeing Tongning recover better and better, Mo Ting felt more confident about Super Interview. The night before Super Interview, Tongning finished her exercises and spoke to Hua Jingjing on the phone. "You will be going on the show tomorrow. Is your waist better?" "Don't worry, it's more than enough to handle one show," Tongning replied as she helped Mo Ting wipe his sweat. "Did you hear about Zhen Mani's return tomorrow?" Hua Jingjing was at home painting her nails as she placed her phone on speaker. "In the past, my relationship with Zhen Mani wasn't bad. But, over the years, as her international status has increased and she has established her own clothing brand, we have drifted further and further apart. Zhen Mani has now been named a national treasure model because President Mo has spent a lot of effort to train her to suppress stalking. Are you telling me that my husband has something to do with her?" Tongning asked as she looked at Mo Ting and Hua Jingjing. "From the moment I joined Hai Rui, you have been the only woman by President Mo's side." However, Zhen Mani spends most of her time overseas, so we don't know if she is still on the same side as Hai Rui. Most importantly, she is a national treasure, yet President Mo has become your manager. Since I'm already here, I might as well take things as they come. Tongning did not avoid the topic as she hung up the phone. At this time, the half-naked Mo Ting wrapped his arm around her shoulder and pulled her into his embrace. "Is it because I haven't taught you a lesson for so long that I'm getting a little carried away?" Tongning took the opportunity to hook her arm around Mo Ting's sweaty neck and smiled. "Have you never thought about being the manager of a national treasure model?" Mo Ting held onto Tongning's face with one hand and pinched her chin. "If you want me to be your manager, you need to sleep with me first." "As long as you're willing." "But, I only want to sleep with you," Mo Ting interrupted as he wrapped his arms around her body and pulled her closer to him. In reality, both of them were covered in sweat, but, because of this, Tongning was even more dazzled by Mo Ting's masculine scent. Not long after, she heard Mo Ting ask in a deep voice, "Can your waist still be used?" "Madam, you've already made me a monk for half a month. It hurts." Tongning gasped. Hearing the word hurts, the lust in Mo Ting's eyes lessened a little. He wanted to let go of Tongning, but Tongning wrapped her arms around his waist from behind. "I was just teasing you, as long as you don't get too excited." Mo Ting turned around and carried her out of the gym. After returning to the bedroom, he didn't even have a shower as he placed Tongning on the bed and sat on top of her. A moment later, Tongning heard a tearing sound in her ears. Mo Ting directly tore off her sports bra and leaned over to kiss her on the lips. She had endured for too long, and desired for too long. Tongning suddenly felt she couldn't keep up with Mo Ting's passion. In the end, for the first time, she let down her expectations and fainted from exhaustion. Super Interview. This was Tongning's first public appearance since her injury. It was also Mo Ting's first event after announcing that he was her manager. 7 p.m. Mo Ting first appeared in the waiting room of the television station with Tongning for a short interview. However, because of Mo Ting's strict control, the questions that the reporters could ask were limited. It was so narrow that Tongning's heart ached for the reporters. But, there was nothing she could do. Who told her manager to be so strict? The reporters couldn't help but cry as they begged Tongning in private, "Can you answer a few more questions? Tongning, I really like you. I don't want to gossip, I just want to know the answers that I want to know." Tongning couldn't help but laugh as she pointed to Mo Ting. "You want to ask him?" As if the reporters would dare to ask. No matter where Mo Ting stood, who wouldn't be afraid of their boss? Afterwards, Mo Ting gestured to Tongning with his eyes that the interview was about to begin. Tongning stood up with a smile. After shaking hands with the reporters, she walked over to Mo Ting's side. The reporter watched as the two walked away one after another. She couldn't help but snap a photo of their backs and post it online. She was a little infatuated. Is there still a manager like them in this world? I beg of you. After so many days of peace and quiet, the reporters and fans had already released their old stories about Tongning and Mo Ting. So, as soon as they saw the photo, they went crazy. Oh God, Tongning is so cute and helpless. It's been so long since I've seen Tongning on camera. Whoa, please show me some dog food. Come, let's add a photo to the photo. Tongning said, tonight, we will definitely be asked about gossip. Big Boss replied, leave it all to me. So sweet. I'm so looking forward to Super Interview. The host needs to work hard and dig out some useful gossip to satisfy our fans' racing heart. If we can give Big Boss a few shots during the interview, that would be perfect. His face is so handsome. Tongning, you are my goal in life. I like our advanced mathematics teacher and I want to win him over. You have given me the courage to make him my personal advanced mathematics teacher. I want to give him a demonstration every day. I can't be more amazing. The commenter above is so bold and wild. But, I also want to win over my personal trainer. Chapter 247. Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Super Interview. I am your host, Lin Ning. As the host's opening words rang out, Tongning, who was preparing backstage, felt a little nervous. Today, she was wearing a simple black A-line dress. Her soft black hair was tied into a loose ponytail and her face was covered in heavy makeup. She looked even prettier and more energetic. Because of her waist injury, Mo Ting didn't allow her to wear high heels, do any difficult movements or stand for too long. Tongning felt a little helpless. Last night, she didn't know who had tortured her to the point of fainting. Let us welcome the supermodel, Tongning. Hearing the host's voice, Tongning prepared to go on stage. However, Mo Ting stretched out his hand and patted her on the head. I'll just look at you like this. I won't be going anywhere, don't be nervous. Tongning nodded her head. In reality, she thought to herself, without Mo Ting around, she wasn't as nervous. Afterwards, Tongning entered the recording studio and was invited by the host to sit on the soft sofa. After a simple greeting to the audience, the host asked Tongning about her injury. How's your waist injury? Let me ask this question first in case the fans get worried. Tongning turned to face the audience and smiled. I'm recovering well. Apart from a few intense exercises, I'm fine. The host held her chin in her hand and scanned Tongning from head to toe. But, you've maintained your figure well. What's your secret to maintaining your figure? Working out and dieting, that's the most scientific method, Tongning replied in seriousness. Okay, since Tongning's body has recovered, let us begin today's super interview. We are a very humane program, we definitely won't make things difficult for our guests. The host smiled mischievously at Tongning. But, in every segment, we will be inserting 3 rather spicy questions. Tongning, you better be prepared to take them on. Before we start the interview, let's start with a question. Let's show the question board. After saying that, the host took out a small blackboard from the side of the chair and tore open the first question on the blackboard. As soon as this question was revealed, the fans in the studio began to get excited. The host shrugged his shoulders and explained, this question was not prepared by me, it was drawn from a list of questions from the fans. In that case, Tongning, what do you think is the perfect manager? Tongning was put in a difficult position. She revealed a helpless expression before replying sincerely, Mo Ting is perfect. Ah! The fans in the stadium screamed. They originally thought Tongning was going to play Tai Chi, but in the end, she directly displayed her affection, causing the hearts of Sue's fans to explode. Shish, the host was satisfied with the atmosphere. In all her years of hosting Super Interview, it was rare that she didn't have to personally control the atmosphere. As long as she made good use of Tongning and Mo Ting's strengths, her viewership ratings would definitely explode. Okay, I'll give you a candy first. Now, let's get down to business. The production team has prepared a few keywords in advance. Let's start with these keywords to unlock Tongning's inner thoughts. The first keyword is 9 years. How do you feel when you see this? Tongning thought for a moment before replying, I died once and came back to life. Can you explain in detail? The career of a model is actually similar to that of an actor. It is very short. But, the scariest thing is, most people look at the profession with a biased lens. When they think of a model, they usually associate it with young models, unlicensed models, and dirty words like sex deals. Of course, this is a big picture. From my perspective, a model is one that leads everyone to discover beauty. So, in my 9 years in the industry, there have been ups and downs and I have encountered all sorts of situations. But, I have always believed that I am doing a job that is related to beauty. So, I will persevere. Even after 90 years, as long as I can still stand on the runway, I will still choose to wear beautiful clothes. As for the reason why I died once, it was because I experienced the lowest point in my life. When everything you say and do is wrong, you will realize that the world is big and there is no place for you. But, you still need to live on, so, pick up your dreams and continue living on. The host glanced at Tongning and led the crowd to give her a round of applause. Tongning, you are a very understanding person. I am. So, how did you react when you were slandered? Were you angry or impatient? I am relatively calm, Tongning laughed before she explained, because I know that I live a positive and healthy life. The anti-fans may be tricked by external factors for a while, but they won't be tricked forever. One day, they will discover how I live my life and understand what I want to convey. That's all I need to know. I also think you have a healthy mentality, so you don't need to worry about the malicious attacks. The host nodded his head before he suddenly pulled out the second question from the blackboard, catching everyone off guard. Ayo, I love moments like this. It feels so good to torment the guests. Come, answer the second question. Tell us about your relationship with Mo Ting. This time, the fans not only screamed, they even covered their mouths and screamed in an exaggerated manner. Meanwhile, fans online began to leave comments on Super Interview's official website, praising the crew for being so considerate and knowing exactly what the fans wanted to know. I saw Tongning in a daze. Haha. Let's wait and see how Tongning responds. Ayo, how many people are watching the live broadcast? I'm about to explode. Tongning, please tell us the truth. Tell us the truth. This time, Tongning also lowered her head and laughed. A helpless expression once again crept onto her face. Why would there be such a sharp question? Let me clarify once again, I didn't ask this question. It was asked by the fans. Tongning couldn't help but laugh. She then returned to her normal expression and replied, my manager said I can't answer this question. What did the manager say? The host asked. Afterwards, Tongning pointed towards the backstage. As expected, Mo Ting crossed his arms in front of him. The host understood and quickly tried to smooth things over. I've seen everything. Her manager is defying the heavens and waiting backstage. It's a bit difficult for me to make a move. So, you guys should ask her yourself. Oh God, she's backstage. Can you cut a shot of Boss Missouri? Manager, please come on stage. Same frame. Chapter 248. In the same frame. How was this possible? The host knew how to control his emotions as he quickly turned everyone's attention back to him. Stop. This is a serious talk show, not a bit of gossip. So, let's get back to the topic and talk about the second key point. Announce your comeback. At that time, Tianyi Entertainment accepted you into an event for a no-name product. Because of this, you were scolded quite a bit. How did you feel at that time? I declared war on myself, Tongning replied succinctly. That was when I picked up my dreams. The host looked at Tongning and studied her carefully. He then rubbed his chin and said, Tongning, I've realized, you are actually a person with a strong personality. Really? Tongning asked with a smile. So, can you share with us your life motto? Tongning had been sitting for too long and her back was a little uncomfortable, so she shifted a little before replying, actually, I don't have a motto in life. I am a person that is either black or white. As long as I feel that something is right, I will give it my all regardless of the consequences. You seem to be very calm and rational when things go wrong. Do you cry often? What kind of situation do you cry about? When a lover, friend, or family member gets hurt, I cry. But, when it comes to my career, I don't usually cry because things are different from the human heart. Things always have a solution, but the human heart is a very strange thing. The host nodded his head and asked with a smile, are you a person that likes to control others? I'm not. Personality is the easiest way to differentiate between people. Only by interacting with different people can your world become more colorful. Then, are you a person that likes to be controlled? As the host asked this question, it was obvious he was trying to direct the audience. Of course, the fans quickly understood and started another round of screaming. But, Tongning was still as smooth as ever and did not let a single thing slip through her fingers. If someone cares about you, they will use twice as much effort to protect your life. The simpler your life is, the more tired the people around you are. If you don't believe me, take a look around you. That's why I am a person that likes to give and take, equally. Because of Tongning's serious response, some of the couple fans calmed down and listened to the interview in earnest. There were quite a few people in the room that were 26 or older. After hearing Tongning's response, they were all moved. In fact, it was hard to believe that a 26-year-old woman would say something like this. She seemed to have seen through life, but she did not see through it. During this short 50-minute interview, not only did the fans get to eat the dog food they craved, they also gained a deeper understanding of Tongning. So, she had depth. I've asked too many questions today. From the exciting Oriental trend to LM's Lingfeng incident, Tongning has always been able to turn danger into safety and prove herself. So, let me ask you 2 more questions. The first is about the day you fell off the stage. It must have been quite serious. Why didn't you immediately seek medical attention? In reality, compared to the questions from the fans, the host's random questions were the ones that gave Tongning a headache. During this time, because Tongning touched her arm, Mo Ting immediately instructed the staff to bring over a thin blanket. Others may not have seen it, but from the perspective of the host, he saw it. So, she asked in surprise, is it a little cold? Tongning nodded her head, a little embarrassed, a little. Host. If one ate too much of this dog food, it would make them want to fall in love. Tongning unwrapped the blanket and placed it over her leg before replying, actually, at the time, I didn't feel much pain. I just wanted to hold on for as long as I could. Last question, it could be a critical hit. Make sure you handle it well. Do you live with President Mo? The fans' expectations were raised higher and higher, because the host had arranged the questions in a very professional manner. The further they went, the bolder and sharper the questions became. As for Tongning's answers, she went from letting go at the beginning to practicing Tai Chi on the surface. It seemed like she was showing off her dog food, but in reality, she was giving regular answers. For example, the last question. President Mo and I both live at Hyatt Regency. She expanded the scope of her interview from one villa to an entire estate. The fans had no way of verifying this because the security at Hyatt Regency was extremely tight. Okay, I'm very happy to have invited Tongning to our super interview today. I'm sure everyone will be able to gain a deeper understanding of the profession of modeling and our outstanding Tongning. That's all for today's show. See you next time. After speaking, the host stood up and took a photo with Tongning. Afterwards, Tongning was escorted backstage by the staff and returned to Mo Ting. The ratings for this episode are going to explode. Mo Ting pulled out a jacket and wrapped it around her body. The questions about our relationship have been asked throughout the entire interview. Tongning replied calmly. You don't like it? Mo Ting escorted her out of the television station. You used to hide your life behind the scenes, but because of me, You are now being mentioned in all sorts of ways and discussed in all sorts of ways. I don't want that. So, she simply cooperated with the host at the beginning. She knew the first questions would be relatively easy to answer, but afterwards, her lips would become tighter. I can be in front of the stage or behind the scenes, as long as you need me. Tongning sat in the van and looked at Mo Ting calmly. Mo Ting understood what she was thinking, so he wrapped his arm around her and said, "From now on, we won't be accepting interviews anymore. Interviews will only be related to our profession. I don't want to rest anymore. From tomorrow onwards, help me take on jobs. Manager Mo, I need to work even harder." Okay. Mo Ting couldn't reject any of Tongning's requests, so he placed her on his lap as a pillow. "Sleep for a bit, we'll be home soon." 10 p.m. Zhenmani's flight landed at Beijing Airport. This rumored national treasure model was 24 years old. She had a full chest, a sexy bottom and a sexy figure. In the past, she had appeared on multiple Victoria's Secret shows and was also a top luxury brand, Haute Couture. Afterwards, she single-handedly created her own clothing brand and was a legendary existence in the modeling industry. Not only that, this model had a flamboyant personality and was crazy about black and rock music. Whenever her fans took photos of her on the streets, she would mostly wear black. However, she didn't make it seem repetitive. This was a very strange phenomenon. After leaving the airport, Zhenmani removed her glasses and boarded the Maybach that her assistant had arranged for her. In the end, she saw the announcement that Mo Ting had become Tongning's manager. Chapter 249. Manny, what is President Mo thinking? Zhenmani's manager asked curiously. Where did this wild phoenix come from? I can't believe she managed to get President Mo to personally become her manager. In the past, President Mo didn't even care about you. How would I know? You've helped Hai Rui suppress stalking for so many years. Don't tell me President Mo hasn't noticed. You're annoying. Stop talking. Zhenmani put on her earphones, crossed her arms and closed her eyes. You could have left Hai Rui a long time ago. Manny, what else can Hai Rui give you? You are already at the top. If you don't shut up, then get out of the car right now. Zhenmani did not open her eyes. She was frustrated. Apart from Mo Ting, was there another reason why she refused to leave Hai Rui? In the past, she had never heard of any scandals involving Mo Ting. So, she was reassured that it wasn't her or anyone else. But now, Tongning had suddenly appeared. Not only that, Tongning had gained the favor of the entire Hai Rui, especially Mo Ting. If she were to stay overseas for another year or so, would there be no place for her in Hai Rui? I found some information on Tongning. Do you want to see it? Just a moment ago, she went on super interview, but, the entire time, she was spending money on President Mo. Isn't a woman like this a bit dangerous? Zhenmani finally opened her eyes and received the laptop from her manager. However, she did not have the patience to look into everything about Tongning. So, she simply glanced at it briefly before returning it to her manager, Charlene. In this flashy industry, no one could afford to waste their youth. So, finding a stable backing was something that everyone in the industry was thinking about. Mo Ting was the person that every woman chased after. This was not wrong. However, some people were far away from him, while others were close. Zhenmani was the closest person to Mo Ting in Hai Rui. But, it was only today that she realized, no matter how high she climbed and no matter how much she achieved, she and Mo Ting could never be in the same world. The fear in her heart made her feel helpless. Manny, Hu Jingjing has a phone call. I'm not picking it up. But, rumor has it that Hu Jingjing and Tongning have a good relationship, Charlene explained. Zhenmani took a deep breath and adjusted her emotions before she picked up the phone and spoke to Hu Jingjing. Zhenmani speaking. Have you returned to China today? Do you want to get together later? Hu Jingjing suggested. I haven't seen you in almost half a year. The last time I saw you was at a fashion show overseas. I don't feel like gathering. I'm a little tired. Zhenmani rejected straightforwardly. However, after thinking for a moment, she stood up and asked Hu Jingjing, "What's the deal with Tongning? Where did it come from? Why did President Mo become her manager?" The reason why Hu Jingjing made this phone call was not to invite Zhen Mani for dinner. She simply wanted to test Zhen Mani's attitude. For a person who had left Hai Rui, was his heart still with the big family? As expected, Zhen Mani was obviously unhappy with Tongning's situation. "This is President Mo's business, how would I know?" Hu Jingjing pushed all the blame onto Mo Ting, refusing to mention a single word about Tongning in front of Zhen Mani. "Then I'll hang up. I'll go home and rest first." Hu Jingjing put down her phone. She suddenly felt a little worried about Tongning. All these years, Zhen Mani had been a proud existence in Hai Rui. Now that Tongning had suddenly appeared and threatened her position, of course she wouldn't be satisfied. Even though Hai Rui was united, Zhen Mani rarely shared her heart with others. Whether or not she would cause trouble for Tongning was out of her control. "Mani, if you feel like your position is being threatened by staying in Hai Rui, then we can jump ship to Star King," her manager suggested. Zhen Mani crossed her arms and glared at her as she asked angrily, "Are you a spy sent by Star King?" Charlene was speechless and did not say another word. Was she being too obvious? Actually, Zhen Mani wasn't stupid. She was simply too flamboyant because that was her personality. So, after hearing her manager's suggestion, she began to suspect. "I feel like you've been trying to convince me to jump ship. Mani, you're overthinking things. I simply feel bad for you. Even if you were to be her personal manager, it should be you," her manager quickly explained. "I need to find a way to find out what's going on." Charlene put away her laptop and looked out the window. According to Zhen Mani's temper, if she wanted to ignite her, it would be a piece of cake. Above all, although Zhen Mani had a high status, Tongning was currently the one who was harvesting the popularity. If the two of them were to be compared, Tongning might not necessarily lose. If Zhen Mani were to see this, how would she feel? Midnight. Charlene finally dragged her exhausted body back to her apartment. But, as soon as she stepped through the door, she was immediately embraced by a strong force. The two of them immediately rolled onto the bed. After the intense session, the man hugged Charlene and asked, "You've been Zhen Mani's manager for so long, why haven't you settled her yet?" Charlene lay on the bed and scoffed. After all, she has been trained by Hai Rui for so many years. How can she be swayed so easily? "But, we can make use of this Tongning that just popped up. Do whatever you want. Let's hurry up." Recently, Star King has been suppressed by Hai Rui and have suffered quite a bit. Hai Rui directly sent Qin Yu to the 18th level of hell without leaving them any face. The higher-ups are currently furious. "If we can win over Zhen Mani, then I will definitely become the boss of the publicity department. I'm going to post a poll right now. Tongning versus Zhen Mani. I refuse to believe that they won't fight." Charlene wrapped herself in a bathrobe and sat down in front of the computer. In reality, she had already been planning to lure Zhen Mani and Hai Rui into a fight. But, now that Tongning had appeared, it was a piece of cake. Charlene wasn't originally a part of Star King. But, after being with this man, she slowly leaned towards Star King. After all, she wanted love. The man hugged Charlene from behind in satisfaction and kissed her on the back. "Darling, you've worked hard. National treasure model Zhen Mani vs popular model Tongning, who suits your taste better? Long legs or a sexy bottom, which is your first choice?" On the surface, this poll seemed like a prank by the fans. But, in reality, it contained a lot of information. The fans did not take it seriously, they simply voted for fun. Because of Tongning and Mo Ting's relationship and the fact that Zhen Mani was often away from the country, they were more than willing to support Tongning. Only a small number of people in the entertainment industry knew that Tongning couldn't compare to a national treasure. When Mani walked into a secret show, Tongning was still rolling in bed with a jerk. It's true that Tongning is better than everyone else, but compared to Mani, there's still a gap. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.